The day my siblings mocked me for being Uncle Marcus's servant was the same day I learned I'd inherited his entire fortune. Funny how life works sometimes. My name is Alice, and for the past 3 years, I've been taking care of my uncle while working remotely as a content writer. Not exactly the glamorous life my siblings chose, but it was honest work that let me help someone I loved. Look who finally made it to a family dinner, Celeste announced as I walked into her newly renovated kitchen. Did Uncle Marcus give you the night off? I forced a smile, setting down the casserole I'd brought. He insisted I come, he's doing better today. Vincenzo, sprawled on the leather couch with his usual glass of whiskey, snorted. Better? The man's got one foot in the grave and the other on a banana peel. You're wasting your life, sis. Unlike you, I muttered under my breath, but nobody heard me over Giselle's theatrical entrance. Oh my God, Alice. She air-kissed both my cheeks. That outfit is so practical. Still shopping at Target? I smoothed down my simple black dress, fighting back the urge to remind her about the maxed-out credit cards our parents had to pay off for her last year. Stephen, my boyfriend, squeezed my hand under the table during dinner. He'd been my rock through all of this, understanding why I chose to help Uncle Marcus when everyone else had written him off as a bitter old man. I just don't get it, Giselle said, twirling her wine glass. You could be traveling the world, meeting people, living life. Instead, you're changing adult diapers and watching Wheel of Fortune reruns. He doesn't wear... I started to protest, but Celeste cut me off. At least she's got job security until he kicks the bucket. She laughed. Though I doubt he's leaving you anything in the will, Alice. He's probably donating it all to his cat sanctuary or whatever. My phone buzzed. Uncle Marcus's nurse. I excused myself to take the call, ignoring the dramatic sighs from my siblings. Alice? Rachel's voice was gentle but urgent. You need to come to the house. Now. The drive was a blur. I arrived to find Rachel, our family lawyer, waiting on the porch with red-rimmed eyes. He went peacefully, she said, hugging me. He was asking for you. The next 48 hours passed in a haze of funeral arrangements and paperwork. My siblings showed up for the service, of course. Celeste even managed to squeeze out a few tears for the cameras. Uncle Marcus had been a prominent figure in local business, and the turnout was impressive. If everyone's ready, Rachel said after the reception, Marcus left specific instructions about the will reading. We gathered in his study, the room where I'd spent countless hours reading to him, listening to his stories, learning about his life. My siblings lounged on the leather furniture, probably already mentally spending whatever small inheritance they expected. Rachel cleared her throat. Marcus Walton, being of sound mind, hereby leaves his entire estate, including all properties, businesses, and financial assets, to his niece, Alice Parker. The silence was deafening. What? Vincenzo stood up so fast he knocked over a side table. That's impossible. There must be some mistake. Celeste's voice shook. We're his family too. The will is quite clear, Rachel continued. Alice receives everything, valued at approximately $47 million. I heard Giselle's champagne glass shatter on the hardwood floor. Furthermore, Rachel added, Marcus left a letter explaining his decision. She handed me an envelope with trembling fingers. My dearest Alice, they'll call it favoritism. They'll say you manipulated me. But we both know the truth. You saw me as a person, not a bank account. You listened when no one else would. You gave me back my dignity when illness tried to take it away. I'm trusting you with my legacy because you understand what really matters. Don't let them pressure you into sharing just because they're family. Make them earn it, like you did. Show them there's more to life than money. All my love, Uncle Marcus. I looked up from the letter to find my siblings staring at me with a mixture of shock, anger, and, finally, respect. So, Vincenzo said, his voice suddenly honey-sweet, I guess we should talk about family taking care of family, right? I folded the letter carefully and put it in my purse. You're right, Vincenzo. We should definitely talk about family. I stood up, straightening my practical Target dress. But not today. I think we all need some time to process this. As I walked out of the study, I heard Giselle burst into tears. For the first time in years, I didn't feel the need to comfort her. Uncle Marcus had given me more than money. He'd given me the power to reshape our family's future, and I intended to use it. The call started exactly 3 days after the will reading. I was in Uncle Marcus's study. My study now, sorting through decades of paperwork when my phone lit up with Celeste's name. Alice, sweetie. Her voice dripped with artificial sweetness. I've been thinking about you. How are you holding up? I set down a stack of old photographs. I'm fine, Celeste. Just busy. Of course, of course. Listen, I hate to bring this up, but… She paused dramatically. My therapist thinks I'm having a breakthrough, but I might have to stop sessions. The bills are just… That's terrible, I said, remembering all the times she'd mocked my wasteful therapy sessions years ago. Have you considered getting a job? The silence on the other end was delicious. Job? She sounded like I'd suggested she swim with sharks. Alice, you know my condition. Sorry, someone's at the door. We'll talk later. I hung up, only to have Vincenzo's name pop up immediately. Little sis. His voice was suspiciously clear. None of the usual slurring. Remember that business idea I told you about last Christmas? The cryptocurrency casino? No, the other one. The legitimate one. About helping people? I couldn't remember any such conversation. Must have slipped my mind. Well, I've got it all planned out. Just need some startup capital. Say $2 million. I'll pay you back with interest. Stephen walked in with 2 cups of coffee, raising an eyebrow at my expression. I put the phone on speaker. Vincenzo, remember last year when you said I was throwing my life away by helping Uncle Marcus? I was in a bad place then, he backpedaled. I've changed. Speaking of change, I found this amazing rehab facility. Goodbye, Vincenzo. Stephen handed me my coffee. That's the 3rd call today? 4th. Giselle texted about her life-changing fashion line idea. I showed him the message, complete with crying emojis and promises of making me proud. What are you going to do? He sat down across from me, genuine concern in his eyes. I don't know yet, but Uncle Marcus's letter said to make them earn it. I picked up another photograph. Uncle Marcus at a charity gala, beaming beside a group of caregivers. He was always more than his money. They never saw that. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Rachel. Alice, can you come to my office tomorrow? There's something about the estate you need to see. Is everything okay? Yes, but… She hesitated. Your uncle left some specific instructions, and I think you'll want to hear them in person. After hanging up, I spent the next hour going through more papers. Hidden between tax documents and business reports, I found photographs of my siblings with Uncle Marcus from years ago. Celeste helping him garden, Vincenzo learning to play chess, Giselle showing him her first fashion sketches. They used to care before money and status became their only goals. The doorbell rang, interrupting my thoughts. I opened it to find Giselle on my doorstep, mascara streaked down her face. My landlord's evicting me, she sobbed, pushing past me into the foyer. I need help, Alice. Please. Like how you helped me when I asked to borrow money for Uncle Marcus's medication last year? She flinched. That was different. I didn't have it then. But you have more than enough now. You're right. I crossed my arms. I do have enough. Enough to help people who actually deserve it. I'm your sister, and I was your sister when you told everyone I was Uncle Marcus's gold-digging nurse. She stepped back, shock replacing the tears. You heard about that. I heard everything, Giselle. Every joke, every snide comment, every time you all laughed at me for caring about him. I opened the door wider. Come back when you want to be a real sister, not just a professional victim. After she left, Stephen found me in the study again, staring at the old photos. You okay? They weren't always like this, I said softly. Something changed them. Maybe the money can change them back. What do you mean? I picked up Uncle Marcus's letter again, focusing on one particular line. Make them earn it, like you did. I think I know what I want to do, I said slowly. But first, I need to talk to Rachel tomorrow. Uncle Marcus always had a plan. I have a feeling he left me more than just money. Stephen smiled, understanding in his eyes. You're not planning to just give them what they want, are you? No, I said, looking at the photo of Uncle Marcus at the charity gala. I'm planning to give them what they need, whether they like it or not. I set my alarm for the meeting with Rachel, already forming ideas in my mind. Uncle Marcus taught me that true wealth isn't about having money. It's about what you do with it. Tomorrow, I'd start putting that lesson to work. Rachel's office felt smaller than I remembered, probably because of the stacks of documents covering every surface. She gestured for me to sit while pulling out a thick manila envelope. Before we start, she said. I need to show you something. She slid a photograph across the desk. Do you recognize her? The photo showed a young woman, maybe my age, with Uncle Marcus's distinctive green eyes. My heart skipped a beat. That's Palmer, isn't it? His daughter? Rachel nodded. The one who disappeared 10 years ago. Marcus never stopped looking for her. He never talked about her. I picked up the photo, studying the familiar features. I knew she existed, but because it hurt too much. Rachel opened the manila envelope. What I'm about to show you isn't just a will, Alice. It's a blueprint. She spread out several documents, property deeds, business plans, and what looked like preliminary paperwork for a foundation. The Marcus Walton Foundation for Family Caregivers, I read aloud. He started planning this years ago, Rachel explained, but he needed someone who understood his vision. That's why he chose you. But why didn't he tell me? Because he wanted to see what you'd do with complete freedom. She pulled out another document. This is his personal journal. Read this entry. I recognized Uncle Marcus's shaky handwriting. Alice brings me tea every morning, not because she has to, but because she knows I like watching the sunrise. My other nieces and nephews see my money. Alice sees me. She'll know what to do with this foundation. She'll understand it's not about charity. It's about transformation. He knew, I whispered. He knew I'd want to help them, not just give them money. Keep reading. The foundation must support caregivers, but it needs to create them too. Show people the value of caring for others. Maybe then Palmer will understand why I couldn't give her everything she wanted. Maybe then she'll come home. There's more, Rachel said, pulling out another folder. He left detailed plans for different programs, support groups for families dealing with addiction, mental health resources, career development for caregivers, everything you'd need to help people like my siblings, I finished, but also like Palmer. Rachel's expression softened. He never gave up hope that she'd return. The foundation was his way of building a bridge back to her. Do you know where she is? Last we heard, she was in Seattle, working as a nurse, ironically enough. Rachel handed me a business card. This is her work number. I pocketed the card, my mind racing. What about the rest of the estate? The foundation gets the bulk of it, but you have complete control over how it's used. She smiled. Marcus trusted your judgment. So I could, theoretically, create positions within the foundation? Specific roles for specific people? Absolutely, as long as they're qualified or willing to become qualified. I thought about Celeste's therapy struggles, Vincenzo's addiction, Giselle's need for purpose. And we could provide training, education. The foundation can fund whatever programs you think will fulfill its mission. Rachel paused. But Alice, be careful. Power can change people, both those who have it and those who want it. My phone buzzed. Another text from Vincenzo about his business idea. I think power already changed them, I said. Maybe it's time to change them back. Rachel handed me a key. This opens Marcus's private safe. There's one more letter in there for you. He said to read it when you're ready to start the foundation. On my way home, I pulled into the parking lot of Uncle Marcus's favorite diner. I used to bring him here on good days when he could still manage short trips. The waitress recognized me. Your usual booth? She asked. Please. I sat where Uncle Marcus always sat, ordering his favorite coffee. I pulled out Palmer's card, then my phone. My finger hovered over the numbers. Need a refill, hun? The waitress appeared with a pot of coffee. No, thanks. Just working up the courage to make a call. She smiled knowingly. Your uncle used to say courage isn't about not being scared. It's about doing the right thing anyway. I dialed before I could change my mind. 3 rings, then, Seattle General, Palmer speaking. My heart raced. Hi, Palmer. You don't know me, but I'm Alice, your father's niece. Silence. If you're calling about the will, I don't want anything. I'm calling about his foundation, the one he was building for you. Another pause. What foundation? Can we meet? There's so much you need to know. About him, about why he did what he did, about how much he loved you. I heard her take a shaky breath. I'm off next weekend. I'll fly you here. First class. No strings attached. Just come see what he built, what we could build together. After hanging up, I looked at Uncle Marcus's empty seat across from me. I hope I'm doing this right, I whispered. The foundation would be my revenge, but not the kind my siblings would expect. Uncle Marcus taught me that the best revenge isn't about destroying people, it's about rebuilding them. The week before Palmer's visit, Celeste showed up unannounced at my door. Her eyes were red, hands trembling as she clutched her designer purse. "I need to talk to you," she said, pushing past me into the house. "And I need you to just listen." I led her to the kitchen where she collapsed onto a bar stool. "Want some tea?" She shook her head. I stopped taking my meds. The kettle I was filling clattered against the sink. "What? Why?" "Couldn't afford them, or the therapy." She laughed bitterly. "Funny how fast savings disappear when you haven't worked in 3 years." I set 2 mugs down anyway, dropping tea bags into both. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because—" She took a shaky breath. "Because you were right, about getting a job, about everything. But I can't do it alone anymore." "And you want money?" "No." She grabbed my hand. "Well, yes, but not like that. I want help. Real help, like how you helped Uncle Marcus." I studied her face, looking for signs of manipulation. Instead, I saw something I hadn't seen in years. My sister, scared and vulnerable. "What about your husband?" I asked. "Can't he help?" "We're separated, have been for 2 months." She stared into her untouched tea. "Turns out day drinking and maxing out credit cards isn't attractive to successful lawyers." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Palmer. "Flight landed, heading to hotel. Still on for dinner?" "Celeste," I said slowly, "what if I told you I'm starting a foundation? One that helps people like you?" She looked up. "What kind of help?" "Therapy, job training, support groups. But it's not a handout. You'd have to work for it." "Work how?" "Eventually, you'd help others who struggle with mental health. Share your experience. But first, you'd need to focus on getting better." She was quiet for a long moment. "Why are you doing this?" "Because Uncle Marcus taught me something. Sometimes people need a hand up, not a handout." "And you'd trust me? After everything?" I pulled out my laptop, opening the foundation's draft proposal. "Read this. It's what Uncle Marcus wanted. What I want, but only if you're serious." She started reading, tears falling onto the keyboard. This is real, isn't it? As real as you want it to be." I handed her a tissue. "But you have to commit. No more games." "When can I start?" "First, you need to get back on your meds. I'll cover them temporarily through the foundation. Then we'll work on the rest." She hugged me suddenly, something she hadn't done since we were kids. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for everything." After Celeste left, I headed to the restaurant where I was meeting Palmer. She was already there, looking so much like Uncle Marcus it hurt. "I almost didn't come," she said as I sat down. "I'm glad you did." "Why did you really call me?" Her green eyes, his eyes, fixed on mine. I pulled out Uncle Marcus's journal. "Because he wrote about you every day." She flinched. "I don't want to hear about—" "He was building this foundation for you," I interrupted. "Not just for you to inherit, but for you to understand." "Understand what? That money was more important than his daughter? That helping others was more important than enabling them?" I opened the journal to a marked page. "Read it." She took it reluctantly. "Palmer wants me to fund another business venture. Says this one will work. But I've watched her start and fail 3 times, burning through money without learning. She thinks I'm punishing her. I'm trying to save her. Sometimes love means saying no." Palmer's hands shook. "He wrote this? There's more. About how proud he was when you became a nurse. How he kept every article about your volunteer work in Seattle." "He knew about that?" I nodded. "He never stopped watching over you. Never stopped loving you." She wiped her eyes. "It's too late now." "No, it's not." I slid the foundation proposal across the table. "Help me build this. Help me do what he wanted. Teach people the value of caring for others." "Why me?" "Because you already understand it. You're a nurse. You help people every day. That's exactly what he wanted for you." She started reading, her expression changing from skepticism to interest. This could actually work. "It already is. My sister Celeste just agreed to be our first participant." Palmer looked up. "The foundation helps families?" It helps anyone who needs to learn what you and I already know, that true worth isn't in a bank account. It's in what we give back. She was quiet for a long time, flipping through the proposal. Finally, she said, I have vacation time saved up. Maybe I could help set up the mental health programs. I smiled, feeling Uncle Marcus's presence between us. I think he'd like that. The foundation's office space was still under renovation when Vincenzo stumbled in, reeking of alcohol at 10 in the morning. Heard about Celeste's sweet deal. He slurred, dropping into a chair across from my desk. Where's mine? Palmer, who was arranging files nearby, shot me a concerned look. I nodded slightly, and she quietly left the room. There is no deal. Vincenzo, Celeste agreed to get help. That's what I want. Help. He spread his arms wide, nearly knocking over my coffee. I'm ready to change, baby sis. Just need some startup capital. The foundation doesn't give out cash. I pulled out a brochure for New Horizons Recovery Center. But we can offer you this. He squinted at it. Rehab? I don't need rehab. I need to stop drinking yourself to death. I stood up, walking to the window. When was the last time you were sober for more than a day? I can quit anytime. Prove it. He laughed. You think you're so smart now with your fancy foundation, acting all high and mighty. Remember when you taught me to ride a bike? I turned to face him. You were 16, patient, kind. What happened to that brother? His face crumpled for a moment before he caught himself. Life happened. No. Choices happened. I sat next to him. The foundation will pay for everything. Rehab, therapy, job training. But you have to commit. And if I don't, then this is the last time we talk until you're sober. He stood up so fast his chair toppled backward. You can't cut me off. I'm family. Family helps each other get better, not worse. I handed him my card. Call me when you're ready, really ready. After he stormed out, Palmer came back in. That was intense. That was actually one of our better conversations. I righted his chair. He'll be back. How can you be sure? Because I saw his hands shaking. He's scared, and for the first time, he has nowhere else to turn. My phone buzzed. Giselle. Again. I let it go to voicemail. Your sister? Palmer asked. The last holdout. She's still convinced she can charm her way into the money. As if on cue, Giselle burst through the door, designer sunglasses perched on her head. Alice, we need to... She stopped short, seeing Palmer. Who's this? Palmer, Uncle Marcus's daughter. Giselle's mouth fell open. The prodigal cousin returns. How much did she have to grovel to get a piece of the pie? Actually, Palmer said coolly, I'm here to help run the foundation's medical programs. I'm a nurse. A nurse? Giselle laughed. With your inheritance, you could... I didn't get an inheritance, Palmer interrupted, and I don't want one. Unlike some people, I understand the value of earning my own way. Giselle's face reddened. Well, aren't you just perfect? Tell me, where were you when your father was dying? Giselle, I snapped. That's enough. Why are you here? Why? She composed herself, switching to her sweet voice. I've been thinking about your foundation idea. It's inspiring. Maybe I could help? I have excellent taste. I could decorate the offices. We need people committed to the mission, not the aesthetics. Fine. Her mask slipped. How long are you going to punish us? We get it. You won Uncle Marcus's twisted game. You won. This isn't a game. I pulled out the foundation's mission statement. This is about helping people who want to change, really change. Like Celeste? Please, she's just playing along to get her piece. Actually, Palmer said, Celeste started therapy last week. She's doing the work. And Vincenzo was just here, I added. He's struggling, but at least he showed up. So that's it? Giselle's voice cracked. I have to hit rock bottom to get your help? No, you just have to be honest. With yourself most of all. She sank into the chair Vincenzo had knocked over. I lost my apartment. I know. I'm sleeping on my friend's couch. I know that too. I don't... She took a shaky breath. I don't know how to do anything real. Palmer and I exchanged looks. That's not true, I said. You used to make clothes, beautiful ones, before you got caught up in the influencer life. That was just a hobby. It could be more. I opened my laptop, showing her the foundation's vocational training programs. We're partnering with the design school downtown. They need teaching assistants for their fashion program. Teaching? She looked uncertain. I've never. You'd start as an assistant, Palmer explained. Learn the ropes. Maybe take some classes yourself. But first, I added, you need to complete the foundation's basic program, including financial management classes. Giselle stared at the screen for a long moment. Would I have to move back home? The foundation has temporary housing for participants. I watched her face carefully. But you'd have to follow the rules. No parties, no social media, just focus on learning. She touched the screen gently. Can I think about it? Of course. I handed her the same card I'd given Vincenzo. Take your time. But remember, this offer is about building a future, not funding one. After she left, Palmer smiled. You're good at this. I learned from the best. I picked up Uncle Marcus's photo from my desk. He always said everyone deserves a chance to rewrite their story. Even the ones who hurt you? Especially them. I looked at the door where both my siblings had walked out. Because sometimes the people who hurt you the most are the ones who need help the most. The call came at 3 a.m. Vincenzo had been found unconscious in his car outside a bar. I rushed to the hospital, finding him hooked up to monitors, his skin a sickly gray. Are you family? A tired-looking nurse asked. I'm his sister. I gripped the rail of his bed. How bad is it? Bad enough to be a wake-up call, good enough to be a second chance. Palmer arrived shortly after, still in her scrubs from her shift at the local clinic. She checked his charts with professional efficiency. Alcohol poisoning, she confirmed. He's lucky someone found him. Ms. Parker? A doctor entered the room. Your brother's been asking for you. Vincenzo's eyes fluttered open as I approached. Hey, baby sis, he croaked. Guess I really screwed up this time. You could have died. Maybe that would have been easier. He tried to smile but winced instead. Can't mess up if you're dead, right? Don't. My voice cracked. Don't you dare joke about this. The doctor says I need rehab. He looked away. For real this time. The offer still stands. The foundation will cover everything. I saw Celeste yesterday, he said quietly, at the foundation. She looked better, different. She's doing the work. 3 weeks sober, back on her meds, attending therapy. And Giselle? Started her training program last week. She's actually showing up on time. He was quiet for a long moment. I always thought I was the strong one, you know? Big brother taking care of everyone. Now look at me. Strength isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up. Uncle Marcus used to say that. He grabbed my hand suddenly. I'm scared, Alice. Good. That means you're finally taking this seriously. Palmer stepped in. The rehab center has a bed available, but you need to decide now. He looked between us. Will you visit? Every week, I promised. But you have to stick with it. No more games. Okay. He squeezed my hand. Okay. 3 weeks later, I sat in my office reviewing applications for the Foundation's new Caregiver training program. Celeste knocked on the door, looking professional in her new role as a peer support coordinator. The group therapy session went well, she reported. 2 new members today. How are you handling it? It's healing, actually. Helping others deal with what I've been through. She sat down. Have you heard from Vincenzo? He's earned his first chip, taking it day by day. And Giselle? I smiled. See for yourself. We walked to the Foundation's workshop space where Giselle was teaching a group of women basic sewing skills. She looked up and waved, genuine enthusiasm in her eyes. They're making care packages, she explained during her break. Comfort blankets for hospital patients, my idea. It's a good one, I said, meaning it. I forgot how much I loved actually creating things. She touched a half-finished blanket, not just posting about them. Palmer joined us, carrying a stack of files. The medical program starts next month. We've got 20 applicants already. Uncle Marcus would be proud, Celeste said softly, of all of this. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. Found something in Marcus's old files. Need to see you ASAP? I have to go, I told them. Keep up the good work. At Rachel's office, she handed me a sealed envelope. This was in a hidden compartment in his desk, dated 2 days before he died. Inside was a single photograph and a note. The photo showed all of us, me, my siblings, and Palmer, at a family picnic years ago. We were laughing, genuine happiness on our faces. The note read, Alice, if you're reading this, the foundation is working. You've given them something better than money. You've given them purpose. But there's one last secret. Check the safe behind my office painting. The combination is Palmer's birthday. Love, Uncle Marcus. What do you think it is? Rachel asked. Only one way to find out. Back at the house, I moved the painting and found the safe. Inside was another envelope, thicker than the first. My hands shook as I opened it. Letters. Dozens of them. Each one written by Uncle Marcus to Palmer over the years, never sent. And with them, a final note to me. The foundation isn't just about helping strangers. It's about healing our family. Share these when you think they're ready. When the lessons have been learned. When the healing has begun. I sat on his office floor, surrounded by 10 years of unsent love and wisdom, and called Palmer. Can you gather everyone? I asked. There's something you all need to see. Even Vincenzo? I'll clear it with the rehab center. This is important. As I hung up, I looked at the photo again. We were broken now, but we were healing. Uncle Marcus knew that sometimes the greatest act of love is believing in someone's potential to change, even when they don't believe it themselves. Tomorrow we'd read his letters together. Tomorrow we'd take another step toward becoming the family in that old photograph. Tomorrow we'd continue building his legacy, not of wealth, but of transformation. We gathered in Uncle Marcus's study the next evening. Vincenzo, on a supervised visit from rehab, sat nervously on the couch. Celeste perched beside him, her therapy journal clutched in her lap. Giselle had come straight from teaching, still wearing her workshop apron. Palmer stood by the window, arms crossed, trying to look detached. Before I show you these, I said, holding the bundle of letters, you need to understand something. Uncle Marcus wrote these over 10 years, never intending to send them. Why not? Palmer's voice was tight. Because sometimes the hardest truths are the ones we're not ready to hear. I handed her the first letter. This one's from the day you left. Palmer's hands trembled as she unfolded it. My dearest daughter, you stormed out today, calling me a heartless bastard for refusing to fund your latest venture. What you don't understand is that every no breaks my heart. But watching you chase empty dreams, watching you run from responsibility, that breaks it more. I don't want to hear this, Palmer interrupted. Keep reading, Celeste urged gently. Please. You have so much potential, Palmer. Not because of my money, but because of your heart. The way you used to volunteer at the shelter. The way you'd help elderly neighbors with their groceries. That's the daughter I'm trying to save. Palmer sank into a chair, tears streaming down her face. I pulled out another letter, dated 3 years later. This one mentions all of you. Found out today that Palmer's enrolled in nursing school. Had to pretend I didn't know when Celeste mentioned it. My brave girl, finally finding her path. Meanwhile, Vincenzo's drinking more, Celeste is spiraling, and Giselle's chasing fame. But Alice sees what I see, the potential in caring for others. He knew? Vincenzo whispered. About my drinking? He knew everything. I spread more letters on the coffee table. About Celeste's first panic attack, about Giselle's maxed credit cards, about Palmer's volunteer work in Seattle. Why didn't he say anything? Giselle picked up a letter addressed to her. Because we weren't ready to listen, Celeste said. Were we? Palmer was reading another letter, her hands shaking harder. This one's from last year. Saw Palmer on the news today. She organized a free clinic for homeless veterans. My daughter, healing others while her own heart remains broken. Alice asks about her sometimes. They're so alike, both seeing the value in what really matters. I thought he was punishing me, Palmer whispered. All this time. He was protecting you, Vincenzo finished. All of us. I pulled out the final letter, dated the day before he died. This one's for everyone. My dear ones. By now Alice has shown you these letters. I hope you're ready to read them. I hope you've learned what she's trying to teach you. That true worth isn't in a bank account or social media followers. It's in the lives we touch, the hearts we heal. Palmer, my brave nurse, you found your calling despite my cruelty. Vincenzo, You have the strength to overcome your demons. Celeste, your sensitivity isn't a weakness. It's a gift that can help others heal. Giselle, your creativity shines brightest when it serves a purpose beyond yourself. And Alice, you understood first. That's why I chose you. Not to punish them, but to guide them. To show them what I couldn't. Love isn't always kind. Sometimes it's firm. Sometimes it hurts. But it always believes in the possibility of change. All my love, Dad, Uncle Marcus. The room was silent except for muffled sobs. I've been so angry, Palmer finally said. For so long. We all were. Celeste reached for her hand. At him, at ourselves, at each other. But he never gave up on us, Vincenzo added, even when we gave up on ourselves. Giselle picked up the photo from the picnic. Can we ever be this family again? We already are, I said. Look around. Palmer's helping run the medical programs. Celeste is supporting others through mental health challenges. Vincenzo's facing his addiction. You're teaching people to create with purpose. And you? Palmer asked. What did you get out of all this? I got my family back. I gathered the letters. These belong to all of us now, to remind us where we've been and where we're going. The foundation, Vincenzo started, was his gift to all of us, I finished. Not just the money, but the purpose. The chance to become who we were meant to be. Palmer stood up, walking to Uncle Marcus's desk. She ran her fingers over the worn wood. He'd be proud of us, wouldn't he? He already was, I said, showing them one last note I'd found. They'll find their way back to each other. Alice will show them how. And when they do, they'll understand that this was never about inheritance. It was about legacy, about love, the kind that transforms. We stayed there late into the night, reading letters, sharing memories, healing old wounds. It wasn't perfect. Recovery never is. But it was real. And for the first time in years, we were truly a family again. The autumn breeze carried the scent of coffee and fresh pastries as donors and participants gathered for the Foundation's first anniversary celebration. I watched from the podium as Vincenzo, now 6 months sober, helped elderly participants to their seats. Celeste moved confidently through the crowd, her therapist's badge catching the morning light. Giselle arranged displays of handmade quilts and clothing created by her students. Ready? Palmer appeared beside me, wearing her nurse's uniform. She'd just finished a night shift, but wouldn't miss this. Almost. I adjusted the microphone. Did you see the surprise guest? She smiled. Rachel just texted. They're parking now. The crowd settled as I began my speech. Welcome, everyone. When Uncle Marcus left me his fortune, people thought it was about money. They were wrong. The side door opened, and Rachel walked in with an elderly woman, Marcus's sister, our Aunt Dorothy, who we hadn't seen in years. It was about transformation, I continued, about second chances, about family. Celeste gasped softly, recognizing Aunt Dorothy. Vincenzo straightened his tie nervously. Giselle reached for Palmer's hand. In 1 year, we've helped 53 caregivers receive training. 38 people have completed our addiction recovery program. Our mental health initiative has supported over 100 families. I gestured to the displays around the room. Every quilt, every piece of clothing you see was made by someone learning to create with purpose. Every graduate of our programs has a story of change. Aunt Dorothy was crying quietly in the front row. But the biggest change happened right here. I looked at my siblings. Vincenzo, would you like to share? He stood, hands steady. 6 months ago, I was dying in a hospital bed. Today, I'm helping others find their way to recovery. Uncle Marcus once told me strength isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up. Celeste spoke next, her voice clear and confident. My anxiety used to feel like a curse. Now I use it to understand others who struggle, to show them they're not alone. My students, Giselle added, touching a nearby quilt, aren't just learning to sew. They're learning what I learned, that true creativity comes from helping others. Palmer stepped forward. I ran away from my father's legacy because I thought it was about money. But standing here, seeing what Alice built, what we all built together, I finally understand. Dad? She looked upward. I get it now. Aunt Dorothy stood shakily. Marcus would be so proud. All those years he worried about you kids, but he knew. She turned to me. He knew you'd bring them home. The foundation isn't just about helping strangers, I said. It's about healing our own wounds so we can heal others. Every person who comes through these doors becomes family. Rachel handed me an envelope. This was in Marcus's final papers. He wanted it open today. Inside was a single photograph. Uncle Marcus at his desk, surrounded by the letters he'd written, smiling at the camera. On the back was written, "The real inheritance was never in my bank account. It was in their hearts. Alice will understand." And I do understand, I said, showing the photo to the crowd. Every person here is part of his legacy. Every life changed, every heart healed, every family reunited. That's what he wanted us to inherit. The applause was interrupted by Vincenzo's phone buzzing. His face lit up as he read the message. "My sponsee just got his 30-day chip," he announced proudly. Celeste hugged him. "That's your third success story this month." "Speaking of success," Giselle added, "the design school wants to expand our program. They're offering scholarships to our graduates." Palmer checked her watch. "I should head home, but..." She looked around at all of us. "Sunday dinner at my place this week? Only if you let me cook," Aunt Dorothy insisted. "These old hands still remember your father's favorite recipes." As the celebration continued, I slipped away to Uncle Marcus's study, my study now, though his presence still filled every corner. The photo wall had grown, showing not just old family pictures, but new ones. Vincenzo with his recovery group, Celeste leading therapy sessions, Giselle teaching, Palmer treating patients. Stephen found me there, wrapping his arms around my waist. "You did it," he whispered. "No," I corrected him. "We did it, all of us." "Still," he smiled, "your revenge turned out pretty sweet." It wasn't revenge in the end. It was resurrection. Through the window, I could see my siblings laughing with Aunt Dorothy, surrounded by the people whose lives they'd helped change. Uncle Marcus was right. The real inheritance wasn't money. It was the chance to become who we were meant to be. I touched the last letter he'd written me, framed on my desk. Sometimes the greatest act of love is believing in someone's potential to change, even when they don't believe it themselves. "Thank you," I whispered to his memory, "for trusting me to bring them home." Outside, Palmer was calling my name. It was time to rejoin my family. Not the broken one I'd inherited, but the stronger one we'd built together. Uncle Marcus's true legacy lived on, not in bank accounts or business holdings, but in every life touched, every heart healed, every soul transformed. That was an inheritance worth more than gold.
In Manhattan, there is a luxury hotel named the Royal Grace. Located on its top floor, Le Verre is a restaurant that offers a spectacular view of the city at night. The high ceilings, softly glowing chandeliers, and the quiet sound of jazz piano all contribute to an extraordinary dining experience. Everything is of the highest quality, creating an escape from the everyday. With my heart pounding, I stepped into the elevator. Today is going to be a wonderful birthday. I truly believed that. My name is Alyssa. Today is my 29th birthday. I rushed here, adjusting my work schedule to make it to dinner with my mother and sister. I looked forward to spending my birthday with my loved ones with warm meals, smiling conversations, and caring moments. This was supposed to be the happiest occasion for me. However, as soon as I opened the restaurant door, the expectations filling my heart shattered with a crash. At a table in front of me, my mother, Hillary, and my sister, Brittany, were enjoying their dessert. What? I stopped in my tracks. The table, covered with a white cloth, had used plates and wine glasses, indicating they had finished their meal. They were smiling and sipping espresso. Why, I asked as I slowly approached the table. "Mom? Brittany." When I called out, they finally seemed to notice me. "Oh, Alyssa, you finally made it." My mother placed her cup down gracefully. Her expression showed neither surprise nor awkwardness. It seemed completely natural. "What do you mean?" My voice was hoarse. "We had a dinner plan, didn't we?" "Yes, we did. But I thought you were busy. So we started without you." I felt a tightness in my chest. You're kidding, right? It's not a joke. My mother spoke bluntly. You seemed so busy with work. We didn't want to burden you, so we enjoyed ourselves. But I told you I was coming. Yes. But we weren't sure if you could really make it, and we didn't want to waste the reservation at this nice restaurant. I was at a loss for words. You could have waited. At that, Brittany snorted. There was no need for us to wait. You didn't make it on time anyway. I was just a little late? Okay, sorry. Since you're here, why not enjoy some dessert at least? Brittany spoke lightly while moving her dessert fork. I tried to sit down, but at that moment, Brittany swiftly extended her hand with the bill. Here you go, Alyssa. What? A gift for you. It's your turn to pay. I was stunned. You're joking, right? I'm serious. Brittany laughed heartily. You're successful in your job, right? You can afford this. I was shocked. Wait a minute. Weren't you supposed to be celebrating my birthday? Why should I pay? Well, you're the one with the most money. It's not about the money. My voice grew louder. However, my mother just smiled elegantly, saying nothing. You're busy, and it's hard to make time for family, isn't it? She spoke quietly. Then at least, shouldn't you entertain us on occasions like this? I was dumbfounded. I had worked so hard for my family, and yet why did it come to this? Ever since I was young, I had excelled in my studies, graduated from high school with top grades, and even had my university fees waived, never burdening my parents. After university, I joined a prestigious company, prioritized work over time with my family, climbed the ranks, and continued to earn money. I even helped pay for Brittany's university fees, thinking I was doing everything for my family. Yet, to be treated this way by my own family, it seemed they never considered my feelings at all. I can't, I muttered softly. What? Brittany tilted her head. Enough, I can't do this anymore. At that moment, I stood up, having a meal without me and then expecting me to pay. That's not a birthday gift, it's just an insult. My mother frowned. There's no need to say it like that. This day is important to me, yet neither of you considered my feelings at all. Brittany sighed. Fine. If you're going to be this upset, I'll have Mom pay this time. It's not even about that. I grabbed my bag and turned on my heel. Where are you going? My mother called out to me. Home. There's no point in staying here anymore. Wait a minute. Brittany raised her voice in panic. Are you really that mad? It was just a little joke. This isn't even close to a joke. With those words, I left the restaurant. The cold night air blew through me. Shivering, I pulled out my smartphone and sent a message to my fiancé, Daniel. Can we meet sooner? I need to see you now. I was desperately holding back tears. I hurried through the bustling New York night, enveloped by the cold wind. Despite the glamorous city lights and the smiles of people passing by, my heart remained frozen. My phone vibrated with a reply from Daniel. I'm here for you. Where are you? The moment I saw his brief message, the tears I had been holding back overflowed. I just left the Royal Grace. I need to see you now. My fingers trembled as I desperately typed my reply. Red notifications appeared immediately, and the next moment, Daniel called. Alyssa. Hearing his gentle voice, I could no longer hold back my tears. Daniel, what happened? Please. I need to see you right now. I'm on my way in the car. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Daniel's words finally allowed me to breathe a little easier. He would understand my feelings. That alone made me feel like I could stand. As I walked to our meeting place, my tears gradually dried. But the pain spreading through my heart did not fade. After a while, a black SUV quietly pulled up in front of me. The driver's window rolled down, revealing Daniel's handsome face. Get in. I silently opened the passenger door and got in. As the door closed, Daniel gently took my hand. "Are you okay?" "No, I'm not." As soon as I spoke, tears fell again. Daniel didn't say anything, he just held my hand tighter. His warmth slowly seeped into me, calming me slightly. "Should we go home?" "No, let's go somewhere quiet." "Okay." Without asking anything further, Daniel drove off. He took me to a small, quiet cafe located away from the touristy areas. The cafe had a calm atmosphere with warm lighting. As we sat in a corner seat, Daniel took off his coat and looked at me. "What happened?" With his calm voice, I finally opened up. I was betrayed by my family. Betrayed. It was supposed to be a family dinner for my birthday. But when I got to the restaurant, they had already finished their meal. Mom and Brittany were just having dessert. Daniel listened quietly. When I asked why, they said, "We thought you were too busy, but when I arrived, they pushed the payment onto me." Brittany handed me the bill saying, "Here's your present. It's your turn to pay." As I spoke, my anger and sadness surged up again. "That's awful," Daniel said quietly. "I can't believe they would do that to you on your birthday. If they really cared about you, they wouldn't do such a thing." I bit my lip. Just because they're family, it doesn't mean they can do anything, right? Do we have to forgive everything just because we're related? I looked at Daniel. Just because they're family, it doesn't justify hurting someone else. They can't justify the pain you're going through. Daniel's words made me realize something. He was really listening to my feelings more than anyone else. "Thank you." "For what?" "For really listening to me." Daniel smiled gently. "Of course." "Alyssa, you're the most important person to me." His words warmed my heart from within. While sipping a warm latte, I finally began to feel at ease. "I don't think I'd feel any better if we go home now. How about we stay somewhere else then?" Daniel suggested. "What?" "We could stay at a hotel, or you could come to my place. Let's go somewhere where you can forget all the unpleasantness of today." I hesitated for a moment, but I didn't want to be alone tonight. "Can we go to your place?" "Of course." He smiled gently and took my hand again. "Let's go." As we left the cafe, the cold night air brushed against my cheeks. However, Daniel's hand was warm, and I barely felt the chill. We got into his car and headed to his house. Tonight, I would rest my heart by his side. When we arrived at Daniel's house, the moment he opened the door, a comforting scent wafted through the air. A gentle woody aroma mixed with a hint of sweet vanilla seemed to have been prepared just to soothe the soul. "Come in, Alyssa." He took my coat and gently ushered me in. The living room was lit with soft indirect lighting, the large sofa and the flickering fireplace creating a warm ambience. "It's comforting here." "I'm glad to hear you say that," Daniel smiled. "Just wait here. I'll be right back." He disappeared into the back room. I sat down on the sofa and took a deep breath. The events of the day replayed in my mind, tightening my chest again. But being in Daniel's house, the pain seemed to slowly subside. A few minutes later, Daniel returned, carrying something in his hands. "What's this?" "A small whole cake on a plate with a single candle. Happy birthday, Alyssa." I instinctively covered my mouth with my hand. "Daniel, I wanted to properly celebrate your birthday. It turned out like this, but it's still an important day to me." He gently lit the candle and placed the cake in front of me. "Make a wish and blow out the candle." Feeling overwhelmed, I closed my eyes. May I truly smile from my heart on my next birthday. With that wish, I slowly blew out the candle. "Happy birthday, Alyssa." Daniel spoke softly, and I looked at him. "Thank you. I never expected something this wonderful." "I didn't want your day to end in sadness," he said as he cut the cake and offered me a slice. Taking a fork, I tasted it, and a perfect sweetness spread through my mouth. Delicious. I'm glad Daniel smiled with satisfaction. I wanted to make it myself, but there wasn't time. "Don't worry about that. Just preparing this for me means so much." I smiled and looked at him. Daniel shifted his gaze awkwardly as he quietly said, "Next year, let's celebrate at a restaurant you want to go to." His words warmed my heart again. "Yes. Will you be with me next year too?" Daniel gently held my hand and looked directly at me. "Of course. Not just this year, but always." His words nestled softly into my heart. The hurt from my family wasn't fully digested yet, but with Daniel by my side, I felt I could start looking forward again. "Thank you, Daniel. I'm the lucky one, having you in my life." As the fireplace quietly flickered, we savored the cake and spent a tranquil time together. My birthday finally turned into a special day in the end. The next day, I received a phone call from my mother and sister. My mother's voice was unusually soft, and Brittany spoke in her usual light tone. "Alyssa, about yesterday," my mother began. "We thought you wouldn't mind since you're busy." "It was just a joke," Brittany continued. "We gave you the bill as a half joke, thinking you could easily afford it. We didn't expect you to get so angry." Hearing those words, I felt a tightness in my chest. Is this really something that can be dismissed as a half joke? My feelings cannot be so easily set aside. But I've always felt. I began slowly, my voice trembling. Could they sense the pain in my heart through the phone? I've always felt alienated by our family. I didn't have time to contact you because I was busy, but I felt like you were ignoring me, and it always weighed on my heart. I said this, and then hung up the phone unilaterally. I was terribly shaken. Voicing it had brought out the pain I had been holding inside. Even though I knew it was the right thing to do, deep down, I still feared severing ties with my family. Soon after, my mother called back. However, I ignored the call. I didn't want to respond while my heart was still unsettled. Looking at my mother's name displayed on the smartphone screen, I coldly slid to ignore it. Messages from Brittany kept coming in. "Alyssa, please don't ignore me. Let's talk properly. We didn't mean any harm by what we said." Reading those messages, my chest tightened again, and I couldn't respond. My heart was torn between expectations and disappointments towards my family. However, the incident on my birthday made me think it was time to reassess my relationship with them. The self-centered attitudes of my mother and sister, their long-standing indifference, and now their insulting behavior had accumulated to the point where I could no longer let emotions cloud my judgment. Then one day I received a demand letter from a financial institution. When I opened the envelope labeled Notice of Arrears, I found a list of credit card transactions I didn't recognize. Upon investigating, it turned out that a loan had been taken out without my consent. This can't be true. I immediately contacted the credit card company to confirm the details of the contract, and there I found my mother and sister's names. They had been using my name to cover expensive purchases and travel expenses. "It's okay because we're family, right?" When confronted, Brittany nonchalantly laughed it off. My mother also brazenly said, "You earn enough, so you should be able to help us out a bit, shouldn't you?" At that moment, something inside me broke. This was not just betrayal. It was a crime. That night, I decided to consult with Daniel. He is usually gentle and calm, but he never compromises with injustice or irrationality. I felt that he would understand my feelings now and make a sound judgment. When I called, Daniel answered immediately. "What's wrong?" Hearing his voice, the tension in my chest eased. But this was no time for sentimentality. I took a deep breath and explained the situation. "So, your mother and sister used your name to take out credit cards and loans without your permission?" "Yes. And when I confronted them, they just casually said, 'It's okay, because we're family, I can't forgive them.'" Daniel was silent for a moment. Then he said quietly in a low voice, "What do you want to do?" After thinking it over, I answered clearly, "I want to sue them. Just because they're family, that doesn't mean they can do something like this. They've been indifferent for so long, trampling on my feelings. But I can't tolerate it anymore." Daniel sighed softly, then said, "That's fine. If you've decided that, I'll support you fully. First, I'll introduce you to a lawyer. I know someone who is good with fraud cases." "Really?" "Yes. Unauthorized use of your name is a clear crime. If we act quickly, we can minimize the damage and the legal process will go smoothly." Daniel's words gave me a sense of security. I had been hesitant to discuss family problems with anyone, but he was different. He respected my will and offered practical solutions. "Thank you, Daniel. Really. No need for thanks. You're important to me. Let's go to the lawyer's office together tomorrow. If we're going to fight, we need to be well prepared." Listening to his reassuring voice, I felt my resolve strengthen. The next day, I visited the lawyer's office with Daniel to formally discuss the unauthorized use of my name and to prepare for legal action. The lawyer calmly organized the situation and explained that it was highly likely to qualify as a case of fraud. This can be treated as a criminal case, and you can also claim damages in a civil suit. Which direction would you like to proceed in? I answered without hesitation. "Both, please." I was no longer willing to cry for the sake of my family. The suffering and sadness I had endured until now would fuel me to protect my life going forward. A few days later, a legal notice was sent to my family through the lawyer. The first to be shaken was my father. Having overlooked my mother and sister's whims until now, he probably felt that this time he could not ignore the situation. "I want to talk as a family." At my father's request, I arranged a meeting with my family with a lawyer and Daniel also present. At the agreed time, we gathered in a hotel lounge. The lawyer, Daniel, and my mother, sister, and father were all seated there. My mother and sister had their usual dissatisfied expressions, but my father looked somewhat weary. Was it really necessary to make such a big deal out of this? That was the first thing my mother said. I laughed coldly. "If you think so, you shouldn't have used my name without permission in the first place. But we're family. So because we're family, you can do whatever you want? Even if it makes me miserable, I should just grin and bear it." Brittany retorted with a scowl, "You're exaggerating. You don't need to blame us so much. Are you that angry just because we used some money?" "Just some. Do you know how much money you spent? Have you ever thought about how hard I've worked to earn that money?" My mother and sister fell silent. They must have thought that money just falls from the sky. Then my father, who had been silent until then, took a deep breath and spoke. I was wrong too. My mother and sister looked at him with surprise. I've spoiled Hillary and Brittany too much. Alyssa was always seeking something from the family, and I also turned a blind eye. I'm truly sorry. I was taken aback by my father's words. It was the first time he was trying to understand my feelings. My mother and sister, perhaps finally realizing something, looked down. Ever since I was little, no matter how hard I studied, nobody praised me. Even when I had good grades at school, Mom only cared about Brittany, and I always felt left out. Dad was too busy with work and seemed too tired to pay attention to me. No matter how hard I tried, I felt that nobody saw me. And I was very lonely. Even when I talked about my achievements, the responses were mostly indifferent or dismissively brief. Gradually, I felt like my existence was fading. My voice trembled. "I wish you had noticed sooner." My mother had tears in her eyes. Brittany remained bowed and motionless. "It's too late now. After this, I intend to distance myself from you all." My mother looked up. "But we're family. Family or not, you trampled over my life, didn't you?" My mother was left speechless. "I will no longer be manipulated by you. I'll marry Daniel and start a new life." Daniel squeezed my hand. "Whatever decision you make, I'm here for you." I smiled. Then the lawyer concluded. "The legal proceedings have already begun. From now on, the matter will be decided in court." My mother and sister hung their heads, unable to say anything. Only my father nodded slightly. "I'm truly sorry. I said nothing and stood up. As the trial progressed, the unauthorized use of my name by my mother and sister was formally acknowledged. In the courtroom where the verdict was delivered, I quietly listened to the judgment. The defendants are found to have used the plaintiff's name without authorization, incurring substantial debt. Therefore, the defendants are ordered to repay the full amount of the unauthorized use and pay damages to the plaintiff. My mother and sister listened to the judge's words in a daze. At the moment the verdict was given, Brittany murmured softly, "This can't be." My mother slumped her shoulders, and my father sighed deeply. "It's a deserved outcome." I stated that calmly and turned to look at my fiancé, Daniel, who had been watching from the gallery. He gently squeezed my hand and smiled kindly. After the judgment, my mother and sister faced substantial debts for the repayment of the unauthorized use of my name and damages that resulted from it. "We don't have enough money." "I never thought it would come to this," Brittany lamented, and my mother began to regret the easiness of their past lives. My father looked at them sternly. "You've both done whatever you wanted for too long. Have you only just realized how much Alyssa has suffered?" My mother and sister had nothing to say. A few weeks later, my father reached out through a message. "We were wrong. I've only now come to understand how terribly we treated you. Can we start over as a family?" While repaying their debts, it seems my mother and sister began to reflect on their actions and started making efforts to mend our relationship. Brittany took on multiple part-time jobs, and my mother also began to reform her lifestyle. I pondered their words in silence for a while before slowly responding. "I can't do that immediately." On the other end of the phone, I sensed my mother and sister holding their breath. The birthday incident, the fraud this time. It's not just those. I have always been hurt by our family's indifference and selfishness. But I couldn't say anything. Even when I did, it didn't reach you. I closed my eyes and continued quietly. "So, I can't just return to being a family right away. I need some distance." I could hear my mother sobbing. Brittany seemed about to say something but ultimately remained silent. Afterwards, I decided to cut off contact with my family and began preparing to start anew with Daniel. That night, I called Daniel. After hesitating for a moment, I heard his voice through the phone. "Alyssa? What's wrong?" I took a deep breath before continuing. "I've decided to distance myself from my family." Daniel listened quietly. "I see." "Yes." I closed my eyes and organized my thoughts. "I've decided to cut off contact with my family and start our new life. I thought I couldn't be trapped by the past any longer." "Alyssa, I respect your decision," Daniel said kindly. "But I'm really proud of you for how you've handled this and for trying to move past it." "Thank you, Daniel." My voice trembled slightly. "Being with you, I feel like I'm gradually moving forward. But now I really want to start a new life just with the two of us, in a new place." Daniel was silent for a while but eventually spoke in a calm voice. "Let's do that, Alyssa. Your happiness is what matters most to me." His words warmed my heart. I felt that together we could walk a new path in life. "Thank you, Daniel. Will you stay with me?" Of course, his voice was steady. "I'll be with you no matter what." Hearing this, I finally felt reassured. Thus I began walking toward a happy future in a new town with Daniel. Even after starting our new life, contacts from my family continued unabated. At first, I managed to ignore them. However, my mind often wrestled with thoughts of my family, bringing up complex feelings. One day, I opened a message from my mother that read, "Alyssa, I truly wish you are well. If you can open your heart even a little, I would like to start over as a family. I sincerely wish for your happiness." Reading that message, I felt a hole in my heart begin to close slightly. Their words didn't fully heal my feelings, but at least they showed a concern that hadn't been there before. Contacts from Brittany and father also began to come in, and each time I struggled with whether to respond, gradually sorting out my feelings. I might have continued ignoring them for a while, but somewhere in my heart, A desire to reconcile with my family began to grow. Then, one day, while spending a quiet night with Daniel, I suddenly felt unwell. The next day, a visit to the hospital revealed I was pregnant. A mixture of surprise, anxiety, and anticipation swirled within me. At that moment, I decided, for our new life, I would gradually mend my relationship with my family. When I shared this with Daniel, he said with a gentle smile, "Alyssa, if that's what you think, I'll support you too. If you want to bridge the distance with your family, I'm here to help." Hearing this, I felt a bit relieved. The responsibility of becoming a parent and new hope enveloped me, strengthening my resolve to improve relations with my family and create a warm home for our child. A few weeks later, I reached out to my family and decided to slowly repair our relationship. It started with awkward conversations, but gradually we managed to share our feelings, and I had the opportunity to speak directly with my mother. "Alyssa, I'm really happy you've come back. From now on, I'll cherish your feelings." Her words filled my heart. The bond with my family had been damaged, but it feels like now is the time to mend it. For the new life Daniel and I are welcoming, I want all of us to stay connected and support each other as a family. My name is Rebecca Stewart. I am 35 years old and work as a senior investment manager at a major investment firm on Wall Street. On the surface, I may seem like the epitome of success. I live in a luxury apartment in Manhattan and have a family consisting of my husband and 2 children. My husband, William, serves as an executive at an international construction consulting firm. Our 2 children, 8-year-old Erica and 6-year-old Nathan, attend one of the city's top private schools. However, life has not always been smooth. In particular, my relationship with my family back home has cast a complex shadow over the years. I vividly remember that day 17 years ago. It was the last day of high school, and I had just received a full scholarship offer from the top business school in the state. Excited, I rushed home to share the news with my parents. The moment I was about to tell them, my life changed drastically. In the living room, my parents and my older sister, Christina, who's 3 years older than me, were seated. On the table lay Christina's new debt bill placed carelessly. "Mom, Dad, I have fantastic news," I exclaimed, holding up the acceptance letter. I got into Wharton School. My mother slowly looked up from her magazine, and my father put down his newspaper. However, there was no joy in their expressions. Instead, a heavy air filled the room. My mother started to speak, but my father interjected. "Rebecca, we need to talk," he said, his voice tenser than usual. "Christina is in a bit of trouble. We need to pay off her debts." My mother added in a cold tone, "About your college funds. We had to use them to pay off Christina's debts." At that moment, it felt like the world stopped. The funds my grandmother had left for my education, my hope for the future, were used to fill the endless pit of my sister's debts. But that money was for my education. I stammered. "Grandma promised it to me." "Things change," my mother said quietly. "As a family, it's natural to help those in most trouble. Christina needs our help now, and that's the priority." At that moment, years of unfair treatment exploded in anger. "The person in most trouble?" I raised my voice. "Christina made her own mountain of debt. Why should my future be sacrificed?" "Rebecca," my mother scolded me. "Christina is your sister. She's family." "Family?" I scoffed. "Have I ever been treated as part of the family? I'm always in Christina's shadow. My efforts and successes have always been ignored. And now, even the chance I've finally grasped. In our family, Christina was always the special one. Her wishes were always prioritized, her failures always forgiven, and now, my future was being sacrificed for her. From my earliest memories, our household revolved around Christina. She had a talent for captivating people. She was especially interested in performing arts. Our parents were obsessed with nurturing Christina's talent. When I scored perfect on a test in elementary school, my mother would dismissively say, "You're good at studying, aren't you?" Meanwhile, if Christina had a minor role in a school play, the whole family would go to watch, followed by a celebration dinner at a restaurant. My birthday presents were practical stationery, while Christina received expensive brands and the latest gaming consoles. As we grew older, the disparity became more apparent. Our household was always strained financially due to Christina's dance lessons and vocal training. But when I asked for funds for a science club expedition, it was denied with, "Let's cut back on luxuries." Our parents believed Christina has the potential to be a star. She'll make the whole family happy in the future. In high school, Christina was a popular cheerleader with poor grades, but our parents still wanted her to focus on performing arts, enrolling her in expensive talent agency lessons. Meanwhile, I was an honor student and student council president in middle school, yet our parents never attended any school events. This unequal treatment stemmed from our parents' skewed values. Both were enamored with flashy talent, which made them somewhat dissatisfied with my steady achievements. Christina's debts began 3 years ago, just after she graduated from high school. First, she was scammed out of $10,000 by a fraudster posing as a famous talent agency. My parents covered this by dipping into my college funds, justifying it as a good experience. My grandmother, knowing this, offered to support my education. Then it was revealed that Christina had diverted her vocational school fees to entertainment expenses, creating a $2,000 debt. This time, my parents diverted my preparatory school funds to pay off the debt. They defended her again, saying, "We should forgive mistakes made in youth." 2 years ago, Christina had accumulated $5,000 in debt through multiple credit cards. She was depressed after failing an audition and just diverted her feelings into shopping. My parents sympathized and said, "Poor thing." This time, they paid off the debt using the home renovation funds. And now, Christina had fallen victim to a marriage scam, creating yet more debt, and even reached into the educational funds my grandmother had offered for me. Throughout all of Christina's endless debts, my funds were diverted and my dreams were postponed. My parents accepted all her excuses and dismissed her irresponsible actions as youthful mistakes. That night, I packed a bag with a few clothes and the bare essentials and left home. My only refuge was my paternal grandmother, Barbara's house. She was waiting at the door as if she had expected me, and without asking anything, she simply embraced me. With her usual calm smile, she said, "Let's make some tea." That night, she explained the true reason she had entrusted the educational funds to my parents. She believed in my talent and determination. However, my parents completely betrayed her intentions. "But don't worry," she said, holding my hand. "I have other savings. You don't have to give up on your dreams." Thanks to her support, I was able to go to university. She not only paid for my tuition but also supported my living expenses. In return, I promised to maintain excellent grades while working part-time. During my freshman year of college winter break, I went near my family home just once. From a distance, I saw the warmly lit windows decorated for Christmas and could hear laughter and see Christina's new car parked. It was a painful moment, but it reaffirmed my resolve to achieve happiness on my own terms. University life was not easy. I worked early mornings at a cafe, attended classes during the day, and studied in the library at night. Weekends were packed with internships to gain practical experience. However, my efforts paid off, and at graduation, I received an offer from a major investment firm. Immediately after graduating, I tried to repay Grandma, but she steadfastly refused. "That was an investment in you. You graduated with excellent grades, just as you promised. You don't have to give me anything else." Over the following years, my career progressed smoothly. At 25, I was promoted to the youngest manager in my department. I met William during a meeting for an investment project. He was there as a construction consultant for the other company. During the presentation, he responded sincerely and accurately to my sharp questions. After the meeting, he approached me, saying that was an excellent analysis. I was impressed by his straightforward manner. Our first date was at a small Italian restaurant in Manhattan. He talked about his work and his passion for architecture, especially his experiences with infrastructure projects in developing countries. That night, I shared a bit about my family. After listening, he said, "We can't change the past, but we can create our future." From that night on, we gradually grew closer. Dinner after overtime, coffee on days off, and weekend museum dates. Time with him gave me new perspectives. A year later, we got married. The wedding was small but heartwarming. Although simple, it was perfect for me because Grandma was there. I did send invitations to my parents and sister, but there was no response. "I'm proud of your choices," Grandma said, embracing me after the ceremony. "This is the beginning of your new family." In the years following our marriage, our life progressed smoothly. A year later, our daughter Erica was born and Grandma visited the hospital daily. 2 years later, when Nathan was born, it was the same. She was the one who understood the struggles and joys of parenting more than anyone. Even after giving birth, my career continued to advance steadily. At 35, I became a senior manager and purchased a luxury apartment in Manhattan. Erica, now 8, grew up to be a studious and thoughtful child like me. Nathan, 6, took after William's outgoing and friendly nature. Our days are hectic with work and parenting, but at night, we gather around the dinner table as a family. I cherish these moments of everyday happiness more than anything. Meanwhile, my relationship with my parents and sister had completely ceased. Grandma occasionally reached out to my parents a few times a year. Sometimes I would hear about their latest news from her, but I avoided any further contact. The separation from my family had become a sealed past buried deep within my heart. Occasionally, the sight of mothers and daughters shopping together during the holidays, or hearing colleagues talk about their family homes, would bring a faint pain, but it faded amid the busyness of daily life. William understood my past and never broached it. However, during family-centered seasons like Thanksgiving and Christmas, he would subtly check on me. Grandma visited us every weekend, and the children were captivated by her stories of traveling the world when she was younger. Those stories were among the children's favorites. However, one day, with Thanksgiving just 2 weeks away, a phone call shook the tranquility of our lives. "Rebecca, there's something I need to tell you." Grandma's voice had its usual warmth, but was mixed with an urgency. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Your parents and Christina have contacted me. They want to come to my house for Thanksgiving this year." My heart seemed to stop for a moment. It had been 17 years since I had seen my parents and sister. Just the thought made my hands begin to tremble. "Do they know I'll be there?" I asked with a shaky voice. "Yes," Barbara answered quietly. "Actually, they've asked to see you." After a long silence, I sighed deeply. "All right, I'll think about it." That evening, I spoke to William about it. Holding my hand, he said, "I'll support whatever decision you make, but don't force yourself." "Thank you." "I'll think it over a bit more," I replied, but I couldn't sleep that night. While William slept quietly beside me, memories of 17 years ago flooded my mind. In the end, I decided to attend. I wasn't entirely sure why. Perhaps I wanted to put an end to years of anger and sadness. I told the children they would be meeting new relatives. Erica seemed to understand that this visit meant more than a typical family gathering, but she asked no questions. On Thanksgiving Day, we headed to Grandma's house. I had no idea how much this decision would change my life. The morning drive to her house was filled with an unusual tension. William occasionally glanced at me while driving, and the children were quieter than usual in the back seat. When we arrived, my parents' car was already parked outside. Seeing them standing at the door, 17 years rushed back at me. My father's hair had turned completely white, and my mother's back was slightly hunched. Christina looked the same but with bags under her eyes, appearing tired. Rebecca. My mother's voice trembled. It's been a long time, I replied flatly. An awkward silence followed. If Grandma hadn't appeared with her signature pumpkin pie, the silence would have probably stretched even longer. She eased the tension by introducing the children. My parents couldn't hide their joy at meeting their grandchildren, though Christina was visibly restless. Dinner went more peacefully than expected. The conversation mostly revolved around the children, their school activities, hobbies, and future dreams. Christina talked about her divorce, and my parents discussed their retirement life. It was a superficial conversation, but at least there were no conflicts. During the meal, I observed my parents. My father's hands shook in a way they hadn't before. My mother's cough also caught my attention. Suddenly, I realized they had aged. Gradually, the conversation turned to the unavoidable. Rebecca, I want to apologize for that time, my mother suddenly started. We were wrong about using your education funds. My father nodded, adding, we almost ruined your life. I'm truly sorry. Although I had been waiting for these words, I didn't know how to react when I actually heard them. Something inside me crumbled. The anger and sadness I had held for years seemed to slowly dissolve. I need some time to think was all I could manage to reply. Afterward, our relationship with my family slowly began to improve. We had monthly dinner gatherings and occasional phone calls. On the surface, we appeared like a normal family. However, another problem soon surfaced. My parents' house was deteriorating, and more repairs were needed as time went on. Christina had returned home after her divorce and was scraping by with part-time work. Initially, I started helping them with small amounts for repairs. Gradually, it evolved into a monthly financial assistance for living expenses. Considering my financial stability, it wasn't a significant burden. I decided to support my family and began sending $1,000 each month. I also made sure our children visited regularly. However, one day, after more than 6 months of this routine, I received shocking news from Grandma. Rebecca, you are being deceived, she said sadly. They are laughing at you behind your back, saying, let's milk her for all she's worth. She's rich after all. Those words chilled my heart. I talked about this with William when I got home. He was busy preparing for a 3-month overseas project he had been assigned to. After listening, he suggested, why don't you test them to see their true colors? We talked for a long time that night. Erica and Nathan had already gone to bed, and the Manhattan nightscape formed the backdrop of our conversation. But I'm worried about the kids, William said cautiously. Is it okay to involve them in such a plan? Indeed, I shared those concerns. However, I believed that if we didn't resolve this issue, it would somehow affect our children in another way. I'll explain to them that they will be spending a short time at Grandma's house, I resolved. You really are going overseas, so we should use that as part of our plan, he said, looking concerned. Okay, but promise me, if things get worse, we will stop the plan immediately. I nodded, and the plan was set. Using William's overseas assignment, I decided to fabricate a story about divorce. The plan was to take the children and seek help from my parents. On the day we executed the plan, I took the kids to my parents' house. I deliberately wore minimal makeup, created bags under my eyes, and looked as if I hadn't slept well for days. We told our children that this was just a little act related to Daddy's overseas work. At dusk, we stood at my parents' front door, intentionally dressed in old clothes and carrying 2 suitcases. Before ringing the bell, I took a deep breath. My mother opened the door. Rebecca? What are you doing here at this hour? I brought up real tears to make my act believable. Mom. I said, my voice trembling as I embraced the children's shoulders. In the living room, my father and Christina were watching TV and clearly annoyed by our arrival. I let the children play in another room. William and I are getting a divorce, I sobbed. He cheated. My mother and Christina looked shocked for a moment. then exchanged meaningful glances. My father didn't even look up from his newspaper. "So, we need to stay here for a while." I felt an icy chill in the room. "Oh, so the snooty little sister has her day of reckoning," Christina sneered. "There's no extra room in this house," my mother stated coldly. "But think of the children. What value do you have without your rich husband?" Christina stood up. "You've looked down on us all these years, and now you run back to your parents' house when things go sour. Don't make me laugh. All the help you gave us before was just you flaunting your success, wasn't it?" My mother joined in, acting like a success, looking at us with pity. Finally, my father looked up from his newspaper and stared at me coldly. "Get out," he said. At that moment, Grandma's words were proven right. They weren't happy to see me, they had just been using me. Their love was contingent on the financial benefits it brought. The pain from 17 years ago resurfaced in a new form. But this time, I had the strength to handle it. "Okay," I said quietly. "This is the end of it all." I took the children to another room, grabbed their hands, and headed for the entrance. When we got home, I immediately started the necessary procedures. I stopped the monthly transfers and canceled the payments for the repairs. Calls of anger from my parents and Christina followed one after another. For the first few days, my mobile phone rang incessantly. The content of the messages escalated over time, eventually including threats. However, I did not respond to any of them. Instead, I decided to take legal action and hired a lawyer. As a result, a court ordered my parents and Christina to return the full amount of the education trust fund, paid damages, and issued a restraining order prohibiting them from contacting me. Unlike 17 years ago, this time I truly decided to sever ties with my family. It was also a testament to my own growth. The next weekend, I visited Barbara's house. She seemed to have already understood the situation. On the table, there was a lemon pie, my favorite, and cookies for the children. "Your mother came by," she said quietly. I gasped. "What did she?" "She wanted to see you." "But I turned her away because she's supposed to be banned from contacting you," Grandma continued as she poured the tea. "She brought some of your childhood photos. She tried to stir your emotions by showing you nostalgic memories." I couldn't help but give a wry smile. My mother's tactics were the same as always. Appealing to emotions, stirring up guilt. But those tactics no longer worked on me. Grandma had witnessed it all. "You made the right decision," she told me. "I've also made a decision. I won't leave anything to your parents. I've decided to donate my estate to charity. Now, I am looking at life from a new perspective. I have learned that blood does not necessarily mean family, and sometimes, the family you choose can truly be your family." Afterwards, Grandma made a significant decision. She sold her house and moved to an assisted living facility. "I've lived in this house long enough. I want to make new memories in a new place," she said. While preparing for the move, we sorted through the items that held memories of the house. An old album surfaced, and a photo of me on my high school graduation day appeared. Next to my beaming smile, Grandma looked proud. "Do you remember," she said, holding the photo, "that day you chose your future. And now, you've built a wonderful life." On the day of Grandma's move, Erica and Nathan were very excited. They helped decorate her new room and enjoyed drinking hot chocolate at a nearby cafe, which became their new treat. Meanwhile, my parents and sister seemed to be struggling. The $1,000 I had been providing every month was treated as a rightful income to support their lavish lifestyle. Thinking they could always rely on me for money, my parents had squandered their retirement funds on stock investments. 3 months after I cut off the financial aid, Barbara told me about their situation. In addition to their original debts, the repayment of the education funds and the damages were straining their finances. Collection notices were arriving at my parents' house, and the debt collectors for Christina's debts were becoming more aggressive. I heard that my father started making even more reckless investments to recoup his losses, and lost a significant amount of money. Christina had been duped by a new scam artist posing as a producer and had accumulated more debt. She was driven to a breakdown and became dependent on tranquilizers. My parents could no longer afford the upkeep of their house, had their electricity cut off due to unpaid utility bills, and were forced to sell their home. Eventually, they rented a small apartment in a rural town. My father began working as a part-time security guard, and my mother started as a cashier at a supermarket. Rumors reached me that Christina was moving from one friend's apartment to another to evade debt collectors. But this was a result of their own actions. They took for granted the kindness of others and exhausted it for their own luxury. "What goes around comes around," Grandma said quietly. But you made the right choice. They were always going to live depending on others. Barbara is now living comfortably in the assisted living facility. On weekends, I take the children to visit her, and spending time in the facility's garden has become our routine. Erica joined the facility's gardening club, and Nathan enjoys playing chess with the other residents. William returned from his overseas assignment and fully supported my decision. "You made the right choice," he said, embracing me. "You are freed from a debt you never owed." Our bond has grown stronger than ever. I believe his support was crucial in overcoming this challenge. Life sometimes requires painful choices, but if those choices are based on one's own truth, I believe they will invariably lead to the right path. On a cold February morning, Lindsay Baker woke up before her alarm clock rang. The digital clock showed 5:30 a.m. Under the still dark sky, the streets of Brooklyn Heights were enveloped in silence. Lindsay quietly got up and opened the curtains. Beyond the window, the high-rise buildings of Manhattan emerged, shrouded in the morning mist. As she approached her vanity, a family photo framed in silver caught her eye. It was taken last Christmas at her parents' house. In the center stood her sister, Candace Wagner, with their parents proudly looking on. Lindsay stood at the edge, her usual modest smile on her face. From a young age, Lindsay had watched her parents work tirelessly. Her father worked in the accounting department of a mid-sized company, and her mother juggled a part-time job at a supermarket while raising their two daughters. They were never wealthy, but it was a normally happy family. That changed when Candace became a successful investment analyst. Her sister's glamorous career and high income captivated their parents, and gradually, the family dynamics began to distort. They became more enamored with Candace's celebrity lifestyle than Lindsay's ordinary life. "Candace is our pride," her father would always say at weekend family gatherings. Even with tired eyes from his accounting job, he proudly talked about his daughter's success. Her mother, too, made it a daily habit to talk about Candace to acquaintances in between her shifts at the supermarket checkout. Candace had made a name for herself as a dazzling investment analyst and became one of the most watched young professionals on Wall Street. She graced the covers of magazines and frequently appeared on television shows, with her parents watching with boundless pride. At yesterday's family dinner, the conversation was, as always, centered around Candace. "Candace, you got nominated for Analyst of the Year," her mother said with sparkling eyes. "We're really proud of you." Meanwhile, Lindsay's steady efforts seldom made it into the conversations. She had graduated top of her class from law school, built a career at a law firm, and worked hard, yet her accomplishments seemed almost invisible to her parents. "Let's give it our all today," she told herself in the mirror. This habit started when she began living separately from her husband, Michael. He frequently traveled abroad for work, leaving Lindsay to parent their son mostly on her own, and these words of encouragement had become essential, especially today, as she had an important meeting with a client. As she headed to the living room, the seedlings of thyme and rose by the window caught her eye, bringing a small sense of relief to her busy days. "Mommy, good morning," said Aaron, rubbing his sleepy eyes in his pajamas. Lindsay hugged her son and kissed his soft hair. "Good morning, Aaron. You're up early today." While making toast and pouring orange juice in the kitchen, Lindsay thought about the evening. Michael had been on a business trip to China since last week and was due to return later tonight. She planned to use the extended daycare hours because her review of an important contract was likely to run late. "Aaron, you'll have to stay at daycare a bit longer today. Is that okay?" "Yeah, the teacher always tells fun stories." Her son's eyes lit up. "That's good. Mommy will come to pick you up as soon as she's done with work." After getting Aaron ready and dropping him off at daycare, Lindsay headed to her office in Manhattan. Checking her phone, she saw a message from Michael. "The meeting in Beijing is running long. I'll definitely be back tomorrow morning. Say hello to Aaron for me." Upon arriving at the office, many of her colleagues had already started their day. It looked to be a busy day. Her sister might be appearing on a morning TV show by now. Lindsay let out a loud sigh and turned her attention to the contract. Another long day was beginning. She reminded herself, she might not be the perfect mother. She might not be the glamorous career woman. But she had to do her best with what she was capable of. That was her way of living. At 2 p.m., the phone on Lindsay's desk rang. It was from the daycare. "Ms. Baker, we're sorry to inform you that there has been an outbreak of influenza at the center. We have to cancel the extended care for today." Lindsay gasped. She had the final review of an important contract today. Leaving early was out of the question. Understood. She hung up and immediately grabbed her smartphone. She tried contacting her usual babysitter, Patty, but she was down with a cold as well. It seems her parents were attending a friend's wedding in the countryside, and Michael was on a business trip to Beijing. Lindsay could not possibly refuse the important task assigned to her by her senior partner at such a late stage. Just then, her cell phone rang. It was from Candace. "Hey Lindsay, I heard from our parents. Sounds like you're having a tough time." "Yes. But I'll manage somehow. I can look after your son for you." Candace's voice sounded bright and kind. "That's kind of you, Candace, but today. There is the Analyst of the Year award ceremony tonight, but I'm totally free until then. What about after that?" "Don't worry. My housekeeper, Diane, will be there. She's experienced with children. She used to look after the kids of a top executive at an investment bank." Lindsay pondered for a moment. Her relationship with Candace had never been exactly warm, but they were still real sisters. Additionally, she had heard good things about her sister's housekeeper. And above all, she had no other options. "Are you sure it's okay?" "Of course. I'm taking care of my beloved nephew after all. I've already talked to Diane and she agreed." While gazing at the calendar, Lindsay slowly responded, "Okay, I understand, but contact me immediately if anything happens. Leave it to me. I'll even buy some of his favorite snacks." Even after hanging up, a small worry lingered in Lindsay's heart. But perhaps it was even safer than extended daycare if her own sister was watching him with a housekeeper in tow. She reassured herself. At that moment, Lindsay could not have imagined that this decision would lead to irrevocable consequences. As dusk approached, the Manhattan sky began to be covered with heavy rain clouds. The clock had just passed 7 p.m. "Ms. Baker, please give the final review of this and a contract." A young associate approached Lindsay's desk with a thick file. "I'm sorry, I can't today." Lindsay quickly packed her laptop into her bag as she spoke. "I've left my son with my sister. I'll review it first thing tomorrow morning. But the client wants it done today." "I understand. I'll look at it once I get home, so send it by email." Lindsay stood up and grabbed her coat. As she stepped into the elevator, she checked her phone. She had sent a message in the evening asking for a quick call before heading to the Analyst of the Year ceremony. There was still no reply from Candace. When she reached the entrance lobby, light rain had begun to fall. While opening her umbrella, Lindsay checked her phone again. This time it was a message from Michael. "The flight is on schedule. I'll be home tomorrow morning. Kiss Aaron for me. Don't worry." Her steps hurried towards the subway station, echoing on the rain-soaked sidewalk. At this hour, the streets were completely quiet. As Lindsay walked briskly, she called Candace again. Please, pick up." The ringing echoed emptily. "I wonder if Erin is okay." As she approached a crosswalk, she tilted her umbrella slightly to check the signal on the opposite lane. In that moment of distraction, everything changed. A loud crash, a blinding light, and a violent impact. A car sped from the left, its tires sliding on the wet road. There was no time to scream. Lindsay's body was flung into the air and into the darkness. As consciousness faded, her son's face flashed in her mind. Erin. Then everything sank into darkness. A white ceiling, the smell of disinfectant, the regular beeping of machines. As consciousness returned bit by bit, these sensations gradually sharpened. "Ms. Baker, can you hear me?" Her vision slowly focused. A female doctor in a white coat looked down at her with concern. "You were in an accident and have been brought to Brooklyn Methodist Hospital. You have been unconscious for about 2 hours. Attempting to move, a sharp pain coursed through her body. Lindsay's right leg was immobilized in a heavy cast, and the pain in her chest and abdomen made breathing difficult. Her face appeared to be lacerated, wrapped in bandages. Surgery is necessary. We've received the results of your X-rays and blood tests. You have multiple fractures and there is a possibility of internal bleeding. The surgery is scheduled to last about 3 hours. I need my cell phone. I have to contact my son." At that moment, a noisy voice came from the hallway. "Mommy. Where is Mommy?" Lindsay's heart raced. There was no mistaking that voice. A nurse hurried into the room. "A boy about 5 years old has come to the reception desk. He says he's your son. But my sister was supposed to." Her words trailed off as the door burst open and Erin rushed in. He was still in his pajamas, wearing only one shoe, his cheeks streaked with tears and his small body shivering from the cold. "Mommy." He ran to the bedside and grasped Lindsay's hand, his small hand ice cold. "I was scared." There was no one at home. A chill ran through Lindsay's entire body. "Erin, where's Aunt Candace?" "Auntie put on a pretty dress and left." His voice trembled. "I was playing in the yard and then she was gone. I tried to call you but couldn't get through. So I thought I'd go to your office." I walked. In that moment, anger and fear pierced through Lindsay. Candace had left a 5-year-old child alone at home to go to an awards ceremony, on a winter night no less. Nurse Tiffany immediately called the police. "There's a possibility of child neglect. We need an investigation right away." Lindsay hugged her son tightly. The needle from the IV caused a sharp pain in her arm, but it didn't matter. She just wanted to feel the warmth of his small body. And she resolved then and there, never again would she allow anyone to put her son in danger. For the remaining 30 minutes before the police arrived, Lindsay held Erin, battling various emotions. Gently stroking her son's hair, she asked quietly, "Erin, can you tell me everything from the beginning? What happened after Aunt Candace came to get you?" Clinging to his mother's hospital gown, Erin began to speak in a trembling voice. "Auntie came to pick me up and at first it was fun. She taught me about space and a new game. But in the evening she suddenly started rushing. She said she had a very important appointment and quickly changed into a beautiful dress." At that moment, there was a knock on the hospital room's door, and 2 police officers entered. "Ms. Baker, I am Deputy Chief Hansen. May I speak with you?" Deputy Chief Hansen opened his notebook and began to ask quietly, "Ms. Candace Wagner is your sister, correct?" "Yes. She was supposed to take care of my son tonight because I was working late." Lindsay struggled to maintain her composure. "What time did you leave your son with her?" 4 p.m. She was supposed to pick him up directly from daycare. Deputy Chief Hansen made a note and continued with his questions. "Did you contact your sister afterward?" "I tried to call her several times but couldn't reach her. She was supposed to be attending the Analyst of the Year ceremony on Wall Street tonight." Just then, another officer entered the room. "We've been able to confirm the surveillance footage." He held a tablet in his hand. The screen showed the front of Candace's house, timestamped at 6:15 p.m. Candace was seen leaving the house in a luxurious evening gown. She appeared to be in a hurry, and the critical footage. Aaron playing in the backyard, noticed by Candace, who, without turning back, got into a luxury car and drove away. This is... Words failed her. Temperatures were near freezing. Deputy Chief Hansen continued carefully. Leaving a 5-year-old outside constitutes a clear danger to life. This is a clear case of child neglect. Leaving a child alone at home, especially on a winter night. This is a very serious matter. Just then, noisy voices began outside the hospital room. "Where is my daughter?" "Lindsay." It was her mother's voice. Then her father's voice followed. Why are the police getting involved? The moment Lindsay's parents entered the hospital room, the atmosphere seemed to freeze. Her mother's makeup was hastily applied, and her father's face was contorted with anger. What happened? "I heard Candace might be arrested." Her mother's voice was frantic. While Deputy Chief Hansen explained the situation, Lindsay observed her parents' expressions. As the explanation progressed, the color drained from her mother's face. Her father looked incredulous. This must be some kind of mistake. Her mother insisted desperately. Candace would never do such a thing. There must be a reason. A reason. Lindsay's voice was as cold as ice. A reason to leave a 5-year-old alone on a winter night. But the awards ceremony was crucial for her career. Her career? Aaron came looking for me alone, freezing. What if he had been in an accident? What if he had been kidnapped? Her father finally spoke. "Calm down, Lindsay. This is a family matter. There's no need to involve the police." "No, Dad. This is a crime. Candace broke the law. And I will take all necessary legal actions to ensure my son's safety." Just then, a nurse hurried in. "Please turn on the TV." The hospital room's TV was turned on, and a news bulletin began to play. Breaking news. Major disruption at tonight's Analyst of the Year Awards ceremony. Nominee Candace Wagner was discovered to have left her 5-year-old nephew at home alone to attend. The ceremony has been interrupted, and the police are conducting interviews. On the screen, Candace was shown being led away by the police. Still in her luxurious evening gown, she covered her face with both hands. The room was enveloped in a heavy silence. Aaron buried his face in his mother's chest, trembling slightly. Gently stroking her son's back, Lindsay's resolve hardened. There was no going back. This was no longer just a family issue. It was about her son's safety and justice. The morning after the surgery, Michael, who had returned as scheduled from abroad, rushed to the hospital after learning about the accident. After explaining the situation, Michael took Aaron home. The father and son, reunited after a long time, embraced for a long while. "Unbelievable," Michael said after putting his son to bed and returning to the hospital room. "I can't believe Candace would do such a thing." Lindsay, lying in her hospital bed, quietly nodded in agreement. The cast on her right leg was heavy, and although the physical pain had not fully subsided, her mind was already on the next steps. Just then, a nurse arrived for the morning rounds. "Ms. Baker, you have a visitor." The hospital room door opened, and a woman in a suit entered. "Hello, I'm Kathy Owen. I'm a social worker from Child Protective Services," Kathy said as she sat down. "I'm here regarding the Candace Wagner case. A detailed investigation has begun." Kathy opened her file and began to explain. "Security camera footage, weather data, records of your accident, and above all, the fact that Aaron came to the hospital alone. All these are evidence of child neglect. Additionally, the police investigation had uncovered exchanges on Messenger between Candace and her best friend Nicole, who worked at the same investment firm. Hey Nicole, what do you think of my speech for tonight's ceremony? It's perfect. Especially the part about being a woman analyst who values family. It'll really sell. Right. I'm babysitting my niece now. It's all part of the act. You're not really going to take care of him, are you? Of course not. I'll just let him play for a while and then leave him with the housekeeper. Tonight's my night. I can't miss this opportunity. Did you arrange for the housekeeper? Oh, I forgot. I told my sister I had arranged it. But it's too late now. I have to rush. The kid can wait. Now is my moment. As Lindsay read these messages, she felt a chill at her sister's calculated actions. Her son was just a prop in Candace's climb up the corporate ladder. However, her plans backfired when she forgot to arrange for the housekeeper. Just then, the hospital room door opened again. Her parents entered. Her mother's eyes were swollen from crying, and her father looked utterly exhausted. "Lindsay, please. Pay for Candace's bail. You can afford it. Her life will be ruined otherwise." Lindsay sighed. Her parents were ordinary salaried workers. They could not afford Candace's bail. Yet, they were begging Lindsay to save their daughter. As if Lindsay's savings were their own property. "Are you joking?" "Mom, Aaron's life was put in danger." "But isn't it a family matter? Family issues should be resolved within the family." "Yes," Lindsay replied slowly. "But Dad, what exactly is family? Don't you think Candace crossed a line when she abandoned my son?" Kathy continued to explain quietly. "The prosecution has already decided to proceed with charges. The question is whether you will testify." The room fell silent. All eyes were on Lindsay. "Lindsay," her mother pleaded. "Your sister. Are you really going to send your sister, who you grew up with, to prison?" Lindsay closed her eyes. Memories of their childhood flashed before her eyes. Indeed, there were happy moments spent with Candace. But at the same time, she recalled the days when her sister was always prioritized and her own efforts went unrecognized. And above all, the image of her son desperately searching for his mother on that cold night. "Mom, I'm a mother too. There's nothing more important than a child's safety. Candace risked a 5-year-old's life for her career. That's unforgivable. But what if Aaron had been in an accident? What if he had been kidnapped? What if he had frozen to death? Thinking about these what-ifs keep me up at night." Michael took his wife's hand. He had been silent, but his expression showed he supported his wife's decision. "You've always coddled Candace. Talented, promising future, you'd say. But talent should come with responsibility. I cannot forgive someone who prioritizes their career over basic human morals." Kathy closed the file. "So, will you testify?" "Yes." Lindsay's voice was firm, filled with resolve. "I'll tell everything. For the safety of my son, and for the safety of other children." Her father's voice trembled with anger. "Are you satisfied? Destroying the family." "No, Dad. It wasn't me who destroyed the family. It was Candace's selfish actions and your years of enabling that behavior. I am trying to create a new form of family." Her mother left the room crying, followed by her father. Left behind, Lindsay, Michael, and Kathy began to discuss the upcoming legal proceedings. Lindsay knew her decision was the right one. It might not be the easy path, but it was the path she needed to take as a mother and as a person. Michael placed his hand on her shoulder. "It will be okay. We'll get through this together." Grateful for the warmth of his hand, Lindsay steeled herself for the new life that was beginning. A life based on truth, justice, and genuine affection. She had finally found her path. In a courtroom bathed in spring sunlight, the judge pronounced the sentence with a solemn voice. "Candace Wagner is hereby sentenced to 2 years in prison for child neglect." Candace collapsed into her seat, and her mother let out a scream-like cry. Her father stood dumbfounded. The defendant left a 5-year-old child in a dangerous situation, forcing the child to act alone and exposing him to significant risk. The defendant's career and social status will not influence the sentencing. The judge's words echoed heavily in the courtroom. The trial that lasted 3 months had finally come to an end. Michael gently squeezed her hand, and Aaron slept on his lap. The once glamorous analyst's facade was gone from Candace. Her designer suits were replaced with prison uniforms, and her perfect makeup was marred by tears. A week later, the local paper reported the collapse of the investment firm where Candace had worked. An internal investigation triggered by her case revealed numerous fraudulent transactions. Candace's brilliant career had been nothing but a castle built on sand. Her parents were also on a downward spiral. A neighbor mentioned that her father had been demoted at work. He was moved from a managerial position in the accounting department to a general staff role, reportedly due to the negative impact his daughter's case had on the company's image. His salary was cut by nearly 40%. A former colleague of her mother reported that she had been moved from her cashier's job at the supermarket to an early morning cleaning crew, triggered by customer complaints. Additionally, she had started part-time work at another supermarket in the afternoon, juggling 2 jobs. The parents had also sold the condo where they had lived for 35 years. The elderly couple was slowly losing their retirement savings. Meanwhile, Lindsay's new life was taking shape, steadily forming a new reality. The new house in Park Slope was filled with family smiles. In the spacious backyard, Aaron played energetically, and on weekends, he enjoyed gardening with Michael. At the office, Lindsay's reputation was soaring. Her sincere approach to child rights protection had earned the trust of many clients. The newly established Working Parents Support Team was receiving overwhelming support from working parents. One day, she unexpectedly ran into her mother at the supermarket. Her mother was scouring the discount section, her expression weary. "Lindsay." Her mother tried to speak, but Lindsay walked past without a word. Behind her, she could hear her mother's sobbing. On another holiday, she spotted her father working as a cleaning staff member at a high-end department store. He was bent over, wiping the floor, his body aged. Lindsay quickly averted her eyes to avoid making eye contact. Letters had arrived from Candace in prison several times. "Lindsay, I was wrong. Please forgive me." However, Lindsay threw all those letters away. The past should be left as the past, with a clear boundary set. At a housewarming party in their new home, neighbors gathered. The scent of barbecue grilling filled the yard, and children's laughter echoed. "What a wonderful family," said Helen from next door. "You all look truly happy." Lindsay smiled in response. "Yes, we have everything we need now." As dusk fell, Lindsay reflected quietly while overlooking the city from the balcony. Candace was in prison, her parents faced bankruptcy in their old age, and their once affluent lifestyle had completely vanished. Ironically, she, who had always been treated as second best and overlooked, was the only one who had grasped certain happiness. It was a modest happiness, but it was solid, based on love and trust. "Mommy, look." Aaron called from the garden. The first sprouts had emerged in the small vegetable garden he had made with Michael. Watching her son's proud face, Lindsay thought to herself, true success is not about flashy achievements or social status. It's about building sure happiness step by step with the people you love. Accepting the past as the past, she continued to look forward and walk on. That is the true victory. My name is Catherine Thompson, born just 3 minutes after my twin sister, Jennifer. Those few moments marked a significant boundary in our lives. While it was just a 3-minute difference, it immensely shaped our separate paths. Our parents, Richard and Dorothy, ran a real estate business in a quiet suburban neighborhood. My mother was always dressed in designer clothes. Her appearance was perfected with makeup, as she headed out to showcase luxurious apartments. My father was deeply engrossed in managing the company, immersed in a world of numbers. On the surface, our family projected a facade of harmony. Yet beneath this exterior, there lurked a subtle but pervasive distortion that I became acutely aware of by the tender age of 5. We were born as fraternal twins. As a result, just like siblings in other families with an age difference, our facial features and appearances were distinct from each other. Jennifer had a radiant and beautiful face with slightly curly hair, appearing almost angelic when present. In contrast, I was quite average, plain-faced and easily overlooked, certainly not the angelic type. unlike other parents who might dress their twins in identical outfits, ours chose distinctly different paths for us. Jennifer was adorned in the latest designer wear while I received hand-me-downs or clearance items. She played with genuine Barbie dolls, whereas I had imitation toys from the dollar store. Even our birthday cakes were divided unequally, with Jennifer always getting the larger share on top of receiving more gifts. At the age of 6, Jennifer started ballet lessons. When I asked them if I could take it too, I was told that enrolling both of us was not feasible. Strangely enough, Jennifer's extracurricular activities continued to expand gymnastics, piano, painting classes. It was evident in our family photos. Jennifer was always at the center, dressed in fancy clothes from upscale children's boutiques, while I blended into the background in generic, mass-produced attire. It felt as though I was an outsider in my own family photos. Each night, as I lay in bed gazing at the ceiling, I would ponder. Perhaps my parents simply do not see me. I managed to endure the disparities in material possessions as a child, understanding that one doesn't require luxurious clothing or toys to live. However, the real pain stemmed from the palpable difference in our parents' affection. Whenever Jennifer spoke, our parents would lean in, hanging on her every word. In contrast, whenever I spoke, their gazes would never settle on me. They would give non-committal responses, making it unclear whether they were even listening, and would quickly shift the conversation back to Jennifer. Entering elementary school brought a faint glimmer of hope. Dressed in identical school uniforms, navy blazers, checkered skirts, and pristine white blouses, I harbored a slight hope of being seen as an equal. Smile, our mother would instruct us during photo sessions, her camera lens invariably focused on Jennifer. Jennifer, turn your head a bit to the right. Yes, perfect. My familiar heartache returned. Even in the same uniform, it was clear whom my mother was determined to showcase. Our school environment was a clean, well-ordered space with alphabet charts on the walls and neatly arranged desks. We were twins in the same class, and our teacher, Mizu Johnson, seated us in alphabetical order. Sitting next to each other, we were arranged as Thompson. For once it seemed as though we were treated equally by someone outside our home. However, this semblance of parity was short-lived, dissipating the moment we stepped outside the classroom. The same scene played out every day. My mother's black SUV would pull up, and without a glance in my direction, she'd instruct me, "Catherine, go straight home and do your homework," while turning to Jennifer with a bright smile. "Let's go to your ballet lesson, Jennifer." The week was filled with Jennifer's lessons: ballet on Monday, piano on Tuesday, art on Wednesday, gymnastics on Thursday, and drama on Friday. I would watch them leave, and then head into the silent house alone. I threw myself into my studies, hoping that perfect grades might make my parents notice me. I worked on math problems, practiced the alphabets, and read ahead in textbooks at the kitchen table for hours. After a long silence, I would hear the garage door and their cheerful voices echoing in the hallway. Holding on to a faint hope that my mother might turn her attention to me, I studied alone in the empty house every day. "Mom, I got a perfect score on my test," I announced one day, holding up my answer sheet. "That's nice, Catherine," she replied indifferently, organizing Jennifer's ballet bag. "Jennifer, show your father your new dance." But I didn't give up. I collected my perfect scores, accolades from teachers, and numerous gold star stickers like precious treasures, each harboring a silent prayer that they might one day suffice to draw my parents' gaze. Then, one pivotal night, everything was irrevocably altered. It was just after I turned 12. Having finished my homework, I was on my way to get some water when I overheard my parents' voices coming from the study. Normally, I would ignore their conversations, but this time I found myself stopping in my tracks. Sometimes I wonder my father's voice carried an unusual weight. "Maybe it was too much for us," he said. "What do you mean?" my mother asked. "Having twins. Jennifer alone would have been enough. She's the perfect daughter we always wanted. But two." I understand my mother's side. Jennifer is special. She has a wonderful future ahead of her. But Catherine, she's just there. It would have been better if it had just been Jennifer. I almost dropped the glass I was holding. I hastily grabbed it again, but in its place, it felt as though my heart shattered like an illusionary echo. At that moment, everything became clear. All the years I spent trying to earn my parents' love, holding on to the hope that maybe things would change, all of it seemed foolish. They never wanted me. From the beginning, I was the unnecessary twin, the daughter who should not have been born. That night marked a change within me. I stopped seeking my parents' approval and instead focused on my academics, setting my sights on independence from my family, freed from the burden of trying to please them. My mind opened up in unexpected ways. My already good grades improved significantly as I moved on to middle school. Excellent analysis, Catherine Mizu Anderson praised me during English class as she held up my essay. This is the depth of thought I am looking for, everyone. I could feel Jennifer's pencil hitting the desk harder as she sat next to me, her face turning red with frustration. This scenario was repeated in other subjects: math, science, social studies. The more the teachers praised my work, the more intense Jennifer's reactions became. One evening, I inadvertently overheard Jennifer's grievances echoing from the living room below. "Mom, the teachers are being mean. They always praise Catherine and make me look bad. They're doing it on purpose." The next day, my mother, her designer brand handbag swinging, stormed into the school with the click of her heels echoing down the hallway. "Why are the teachers discriminating against Jennifer?" she demanded in the principal's office. Mr. Harrison, our homeroom teacher, maintained a calm and professional demeanor. "Mrs. Thompson, this isn't a case of discrimination. Please take a look at their academic records." He carefully displayed our grades for her inspection. Catherine consistently achieves top marks across all her subjects. As for Jennifer, "Are you saying my Jennifer is stupid?" my mother interrupted. "No at all. But Catherine's academic performance is. This is exactly the discrimination I'm talking about. You clearly have a bias against Jennifer. No amount of evidence could convince her otherwise." That day, I heard my mother telling my father, "The teachers are discriminating against our precious Jennifer." Days turned into years, and high school graduation day arrived. When my name was called as the valedictorian, my parents barely clapped. However, when Jennifer walked across the stage, they cheered as if she had won an Olympic gold medal. And then the day everything changed arrived, the day after graduation. "I have some exciting news," my mother announced at breakfast, barely able to keep still in her chair. "We're going on a trip to Hawaii to celebrate your graduation." For a moment, my heart leapt, thinking that maybe, just maybe, this would be different. "Look," my mother turned to me with a dismissive tone, "we could only get 3 tickets. You understand, right? It's necessary for someone to stay behind to look after the house." She then tossed a thick envelope in front of me. "Also, take a look at this." As I opened it, inside were numerous unpaid bills and detailed statements of debt. The total amount was staggering. "Sort this out while we're gone," my father stated bluntly. "You're smart, right? You should be able to handle it." Jennifer, stirring her orange juice, smirked smugly. "Don't worry, Catherine. I'll send you lots of pictures from the beach." The next morning, I stood at the front door, watching them load their expensive suitcases into the taxi. Jennifer turned back with an exaggerated wave. "I'll send you some lovely photos from Hawaii," they said as they left me behind with a mountain of debt. As the taxi turned the corner and disappeared, I felt my body shake with anger and disappointment. At that moment, I remembered something: a shout from a phone call my mother had years ago. "I don't want anything to do with it anymore. That cheap house and those tacky clothes. It's just embarrassing. I've moved up in social status." She had screamed, talking to her own parents, my grandparents, whom she referred to as low class and had cut off ties with, the grandparents I had never met. I immediately sneaked into my mother's study and found her address book. At the very back, I found what seemed to be my grandparents' names alongside an address in an old town. That evening, I visited my grandparents' home, a modest house with a well-maintained garden. My heart pounded as I rang the doorbell. The door opened and an elderly couple appeared. My grandmother had her gray hair neatly tied back, and my grandfather wore thin-framed glasses. "Who might you be?" They looked puzzled, but their expressions changed as I began to speak. "My name is Catherine Thompson. I believe you are my grandparents." My grandmother covered her mouth with her hand. "Oh, you are Dorothy's." Their warm gazes suddenly made me well up with tears. They invited me inside their home. I sat in their cozy living room, sipping the coffee they offered. They seemed unable to take their eyes off me. "You look just like your mother when she was young," my grandmother said softly, her tone imbued with nostalgia. For the first time, I experienced a sense of genuine recognition. I was recognized for who I was, not evaluated or compared. As I held back tears for years, they finally started to overflow. They left me behind. I began to sob as I told them about the years of differential treatment by my parents, the Hawaii trip, and the statement of debts. By the time I finished, my grandfather's expression had changed. Actually, he began in a firm yet gentle tone. "That house belongs to us. Your parents are merely tenants." He revealed that he had worked in real estate over 20 years ago, handling many prime properties as a senior executive during prosperous times. However, as the economy declined, the company went bankrupt. Just before that, he had the opportunity to buy that house, which was a liquidated property of the company, at a very low price. At that time, the neighborhood was underdeveloped and the property values were minimal. My grandfather continued. "I saw the potential in real estate and invested almost all of our savings to buy it." "But my mother?" I asked, puzzled. "Dorothy said it was her house," my grandmother interjected. "After the company went bankrupt, we lived a modest life. It was really tough at times. Dorothy was ashamed of our life. When she was young, we were quite well off. She couldn't bear the downgraded lifestyle. She said she would succeed in business with Richard and not end up like me." My grandfather's voice was tinged with deep sadness. My grandmother explained that when my mother got married, my grandparents offered to provide a house for my parents with the agreement that they would pay rent. However, as my parents' business began to take off, my mother started telling people that they had bought the house themselves. "We turned a blind eye," my grandfather continued. "We knew Dorothy was embarrassed to admit receiving help from us, but it was understood that they would continue to make rent payments. However, rent payments began to fall behind about 5 years ago. The last call from Dorothy was 3 years ago." My grandmother's voice quivered slightly. She said, "We are managing the house for you. You should be grateful for that alone." And she claimed, "The property value has more than doubled. We are managing it, so stop demanding rent like it's something prestigious." My grandfather continued with a bitter expression. After saying that, she hung up the phone and completely cut off contact with us. Since then, my father's real estate company had taken on a significant amount of debt from risky property investments and was suffering from serious business downturns. Behind their glamorous lifestyle, the debts were snowballing. Dorothy cut off ties with us and was ashamed to speak of us as poor parents. My grandmother's voice was filled with sorrow. But in reality, they were the ones who couldn't even pay the monthly rent. My eyes widened in shock. When Dorothy last called, we didn't sell the house because we thought maybe one day she would understand, my grandfather said with a stern expression. But we can't overlook this any longer. Meanwhile, my grandparents had been living modestly while investing in several IT companies, and those investments had paid off handsomely. "Your mother left saying we were too poor," my grandfather said, shaking his head. "Ironically, we are now wealthier than ever. We just don't feel the need to show it off." Then, my grandmother pulled out a bundle of aged documents. "This is the deed to the house. We have kept all the records of unpaid rent. We have the right to dispose of the items in the house to pay off the debt. It's time to end your parents' lavish lifestyle." At that moment, my cell phone vibrated. It was a photo message from Jennifer, posing on a Hawaiian beach with the caption, "Wish you were here, LOL." I looked at the message. then at my grandparents' faces, and then at the stack of documents in front of me. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the lesser twin. Over the next 2 weeks, I slowly arranged for real estate agents and buyers. My parents' cherished luxury furniture, my mother's branded collections, my father's expensive car, all were put up for sale. Each day, my phone vibrated with new notifications of Jennifer posing on different beaches, dining at upscale restaurants, and relaxing in infinity pools, each picture accompanied by increasingly arrogant captions. Living the best life. This is what success looks like. Winners spend their time in Hawaii, others only dream about it. As I continued with the task at hand, the house gradually emptied, feeling like a weight was being lifted from my heart. Then, the day they were due to return arrived. I pretended to read a book in the living room, peeking through the window. I watched as the taxi arrived and their reactions unfolded one by one. My mother was the first to enter the now bare house, stopping so abruptly that Jennifer, following close behind, bumped into her. My father, struggling with a set of expensive suitcases, nearly tripped over them. "What have you done?" my mother said in a hollow voice, her hands trembling as she clutched her designer bag. "What did you do?" My father blamed me, his face reddened from the Hawaiian sun and shock. Jennifer burst out laughing, though her laugh was tinged with uncertainty. "You're joking, right? Everything's gone." "It's to pay off the debts," I replied calmly. "Oh, and take a look at this," I said, handing over the documents my grandparents had entrusted to me. "From Grandpa and Grandma. I heard they actually own this house, and they want you to leave," I informed them. My mother's tanned face went pale. "What?" "Yes, your parents. The two poor and embarrassing ones," I continued as I handed over the legal papers. "You have 30 days to vacate this house." "Of course I'm leaving too. I'm going to live with them." Jennifer started crying. "But what about my room? My clothes? Most of it's already sold to pay the debts." The photos from Hawaii were nice, weren't they? My father turned to my mother. "Dorothy, call your parents right now," he commanded with the same tone he used when ordering in a restaurant. My mother's hands trembled as she took out her cell phone, her French nails sparkling in the sunlight. When my grandmother answered the phone, my mother didn't even bother to greet her but switched to speakerphone and shouted, "What is this about?" Her voice echoed. Over the phone, my grandmother's voice was calm and slightly amused. "Oh, it's been a while. Did you enjoy your fancy vacation? I saw the lovely pictures your daughter posted. The Royal Hawaiian Hotel is fabulous this time of year, isn't it? Don't change the subject. Why do we have to leave the house?" my mother demanded. Well, my grandmother's voice was satisfied. "Your two poor and embarrassing parents are actually quite wealthy now." My mother's tone suddenly changed, becoming as sweet as honey. "Mom, I've been thinking. Let's put the past behind us and start over. Family is important, after all." Indeed, my grandmother's voice was cold. By the way, my mother's eyes shifted towards Jennifer, who already seemed to be calculating something. "Did you forget Jennifer, your other grandchild? If Jennifer loses the house and ends up homeless?" My grandfather's laughter then echoed over the phone. "Are you talking about the granddaughter you took to Hawaii? The one who left Catherine behind?" My mother's face turned red. "It's not like that. Look, grandparents should treat their grandchildren equally. They are the same age, after all." "Equally," my grandmother's voice sharpened. "I don't think you're one to talk. Shouldn't parents love their children equally?" "But it seems that wasn't the case in your household," she pointed out before my mother could respond anything, and the call ended. The weeks that followed were filled with turmoil. My parents tried desperately to reconcile with my grandparents, but it was too late. They were forced to move into a cheap apartment, and Jennifer struggled to accept that her luxurious lifestyle had crumbled instantly. Meanwhile, I started a new life at my grandparents' house. They fully supported my college education. Each morning, I woke up to the smell of my grandmother's warm coffee and chatted with my grandfather over the newspaper. I never knew such ordinary happiness could be so precious. As my new life at university began, I chose to study law. I want to specialize in family law in the future, protecting the rights of children who grow up in complex family environments. One evening, after returning from university, my grandmother told me, "Your parents came today." My heart skipped a beat. What did they say? Oh, the usual. Your mother came with a fake smile, offered a hollow apology, tried to probe our financial situation, and hinted about Jennifer's upcoming birthday. Your father was looking around the house, probably trying to estimate our assets. How did you respond? My grandfather joined in. I told them that we've already decided on how our assets would be used. It's all going to you, he stated. I could imagine my mother's forced smile crumbling. What was their reaction? Well, my grandmother laughed. Dorothy's smile definitely fell apart. I told them not to come back again. That night, I blocked my parents' and Jennifer's phone numbers and all their social media accounts. I knew that messages of regret and offers to make amends would come, but I no longer needed such a family. I don't harbor any hatred towards them. Rather, I quietly accept that there comes a time when everyone must face the consequences of their choices. Living with my grandparents, I learned what unconditional love is for the first time. The happiness of being recognized for who I am without comparison. Sometimes, the most unexpected events can lead to the most beautiful outcomes. Now, as I take notes in constitutional law class, I occasionally think about the little girl who once prayed for her parents' love. I want to tell her that something better is waiting. Not just love, but respect, support, and the freedom to be oneself. The love from my grandparents has given me the chance to turn a new page in my life. While the past with my parents did come with pain, it has now strengthened me and become a part of who I am.